Moto, Lagos, and more. And if you're looking for something extra special, we also have an amazing selection of diamond jewelry. Shop in-store or online at baileybox.com. Give her a gift that's better than chocolate or roses with the easiest and can't-miss way to make her Valentine's Day extra special with a little black and white striped box from Bailey's Fine Jewelry. Located in Raleigh's Village District and Crabtree Valley Mall, also in Cary's Fenton, Rocky Mount, and Greenville. Just a little reminder from me, Marcy Bailey. Every woman wants a Bailey box.
Hey, it's Adam Gold, and I'm not sure you're aware of this. No, of course you're aware of this. Super Bowl 59 is here. It's the big week, and no better way to make every moment more exciting than with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. They make it easy to have the most fun during the big game. Saquon Barkley, 25 or more rushing yards in each quarter. You can do that. That's hard. Either quarterback to catch a pass. That could happen. How about a big man touchdown? Any offensive lineman to score a TD. Place a $5 bet. If you win, you get $200 in bonus bets. FanDuel.com/Adam Gold. That's FanDuel.com/Adam Gold for FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. 21 and over and present in North Carolina. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonuses issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 877-718-5543 or visit morethanagame.nc.gov.
If you see a student being bullied, be supportive. Ask if they're okay and invite them to join you. You'll be an ally and you can make a friend. Friendship! Visit StopBullyingSpeakUp.com and join Cartoon Network to redraw your world without bullying.
This hour of the Triangle Sports Leader is powered by Ritchie Law Firm, injury lawyers. Ritchie Law is on top of it. Go to RitchieLaw.com.
That's RitchieLaw.com.
They score!
WCMC-FM HD1 Holly Springs.
Mikko Rantanen, will he dig in with as much commitment with a new team? You know, is that going to be the same to get them to win the Stanley Cup? Is Sebastian Aho going to take another step to be even better than where he's at right now, which to me needs to be better? Same with Svech. And if you're going to be able to beat the champions who have already won the cup and know what it takes and will get in the trenches for 2 weeks and beat you, that's where the Canes have to go.
It's the Adam Gold Show. I'm Adam Gold. What's going on? I don't know if you're aware, the Super Bowl's on Sunday. This might have flown underneath the radar. I don't know.
What?
That's what I've been told.
Haven't heard of it.
Well, it's what they call it, the Super Bowl. It used to be called the AFL NFL championship game way back in the day. Back in my day. No, there was no back in my day.
I feel like I use that a lot more.
Although, what is this? Super Bowl 59, right?
LIX.
Yeah, Super Bowl LIX.
Rob Gronkowski's.
I am the Super Bowl era.
Oh.
Basically.
Nice.
It's the first Super Bowl was contested the year after I was born. It was I think 1967 was the first Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And I was not yet a year old when it was contested.
It's a good way to keep track of like how old you are, because every birthday I'm like, wait, what is it? Oh, there it is.
You just gave me an idea. I'm now going to start celebrating my birthday
You should.
in Roman numerals.
You should.
So,
you wouldn't even have to think about it. Just look up the Super Bowl and it'll tell you.
It's my LIX birthday coming up.
There you go.
I'm still many months away from that. You know who played in the first one? It was Green Bay and Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
And they played in the first one, they played in the fourth one, and they have now played, we don't know what's going to happen this one, obviously, but they will have been in 4 of the last 5. So they went a long, 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 long time between Super Bowls. Lost the first one, won Super Bowl 4 over the Vikings, and have now won 3 of the last 5 Super Bowls, three of the last 4 Super Bowls, and they have
lost
appeared.
to the Bucks.
Lost to the Bucks, beat the Eagles once, beat the 49ers twice. and they are going for a 4th Super Bowl title in, I guess it's 4 and 6 years, right? Because it's 2 years they didn't win. So I got to get the math down on all of this because I've probably just said about 6 things that are incorrect because I'm having trouble with math today.
It's okay. We don't like to do live math.
Right.
It's never recommended.
It's bad. A, it's bad radio, and B, you're going to get it wrong. We had opening night in the Super Bowl week in New Orleans yesterday. We'll hear a little bit from that. The commissioner gave his State of the NFL address. We'll play some clips from that. I was not encouraged because I know we're getting to 18 anyway, but his thoughts on the 18-game regular season length, which I believe they have the right to simply impose if they want. I believe based on the last collective bargaining agreement, even though they won the right to go to 17, it contains the provision to go to 18 as well. But the commissioner said that it would only happen after negotiations on a new CBA begin. So we'll talk a little bit about that. We had some, in some ways, a bummer ACC basketball news yesterday, but we'll spin it as a positive, and it has nothing to do with results on the court. I know Jeff Capel was mad at his team last night, who got punked at home by Virginia.
It's not good.
I just don't know what are you doing, Pitt? I watched that team 3 weeks ago at Cameron Indoor Stadium and thought, that's a good basketball team.
Yeah.
And then last night, they went, nah, we ain't that good.
They're in a pit.
Woo! Very nice. Very nice. We'll talk more about the Luka LeBron James coupling in L.A. if Luka ever gets healthy and on the court. We'll talk about the fallout from that. Bomani Jones is going to join us today. Dan Wolken from USA Today that wrote a pretty ice water in the face of UNC basketball piece in the wake of the game Saturday night at Cameron Indoor. We'll talk to him in the first hour. We've got Canes in Winnipeg tonight. We're trying to catch up with Tripp Tracy for later in the show. But we will talk to David Teel, the Dean of ACC Reporters, about the retirement of Leonard Hamilton, the state of play in the ACC in terms of TV deal, and get his thoughts on what happened at Cameron Indoor Stadium on Saturday night. Still, everybody, I was watching ACC Network yesterday because they had their Monday night basketball game. At least they were talking about it. It's an ESPN game. And Joel Berry was, and he's going to join us tomorrow on the show, Joel. He was not happy with his alma mater. They have in many ways fallen off. I would argue that not that we're making too big a deal out of it, but this year does seem like an outlier in terms of the roster. But we'll discuss that as we move throughout the program. And we'll talk about it with Bomani Jones, who clearly has spent a lot of time in this area and actually taught at both UNC. Actually was a graduate student at UNC, but taught some at Duke.
Well, there you go.
And is no fan of the Blue Devils, but that's fine. All right, let's start. I do want to dig into Hubert Davis because he talked openly last night on his radio show about bringing UNC basketball into the 21st century. Now, I realize that we have been in the 21st century now for almost a quarter of it.
Good little bit.
Right? Actually, no, we have been for a quarter of it because the century begins in 01. Not 2000. Pet peeve of mine is people who want to end decades and centuries a year early.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
Right.
Because there was no year zero.
Right.
It was one.
Yeah.
One was the first year, and then 100 is still part of. Never mind. I'm not going to get into it. I think that's an old joke, I guess. But Hubert Davis talked about the Carolina way doesn't work anymore. Look, I don't know whether or not that is the way he truly feels, and because we talked about this yesterday, that Saturday night felt like more than a game or a season. It felt like a true separation of where one program is and is headed and where another program is and is headed. It just felt differently. I did say after talking about that we have been in this place before where we felt like, oh boy, North Carolina's moving ahead of Duke, and then a couple of years later it flips. So I do think that what we're dealing with here is largely about the roster. And we talked about this weeks ago that, man, I just look at UNC and I don't see a team that can play with the big boys. Now, I'm not talking about the bigger schools. I am talking about with the best teams this year. There is a larger discussion about modernizing the way you do things, but I'm not entirely sure that the Carolina way needs to be scrapped. The type of players they recruit, that needs to be scrapped. What they did this year was miss on bigs. There's no centers, forwards for a school that for years had two of everything up front. They had two centers, they had two power forwards at all times. They all played, and they all kicked your rear end on the glass. This team doesn't have hardly any. Jalen Washington, who was a top 50 recruit a few years ago, is okay. Van Allen Lubin, who comes out of the transfer portal. I mean, that's a guy that in past years North Carolina would have as like the fourth or fifth best of their interior players. And he starts. So we're talking about really, if Carolina had a big, if Jalen Washington were better, if they got like a legitimate center power forward out of the transfer portal who was putting up 14 points and 9 rebounds a night, getting to the offensive glass, creating, playing good defense, all of that, if we had one of those, then it's possible. Look, Duke's I keep saying it, Duke is awesome. They're national championship caliber good. North Carolina clearly isn't. But maybe it wouldn't have looked like such a mismatch because that's what it looked like. And we would still be in the same spot where North Carolina hasn't modernized their program. So I do think that sometimes, and this happens in every single sport, doesn't matter, we get results focused, which it's fine. But sometimes it clouds the and shapes our opinion of what the state of play really is. And maybe, and because it works both ways, if Carolina won both games against Duke last year, like their program didn't suddenly go from here to here. I went, if you're watching on video, you saw what I did. If you're listening on the radio, you didn't see what I did with my hand, which was up here above my head and then here on the table.
A lower level.
Right? So they just didn't plummet off the cliff as a program from one year to the next, and they won both games last year. Nobody was writing it then. So how can so much have changed so quickly? Except that maybe sometimes the success of your program 3 years ago, Final Four, 3 points from beating Kansas for the national championship, maybe that success masks the real problem. See, it goes both ways. And so North Carolina has some soul searching to do. Hubert Davis talked about it on his radio show last night. We're going to hire a GM. We're going to build out the staff. All of that. We're going to talk about that with Dan Wolken and then later on with David Teel. They do need it. I mentioned this yesterday. John Shire's first hire, first person that he said, you are this. Would you like this job? Was Rachel Baker, a former Nike executive, to be the basketball program's general manager. She oversees all the stuff that isn't coaching and recruiting. That's what she does. That's her job. And UNC doesn't have that. So I don't know how long it takes to fill out that staff and build this whole project out, but I think Hubert Davis is a good basketball coach. You don't get to a Final Four without being a good basketball coach. I mean, I guess you can. I've seen worse coaches. John Brady at LSU got to a Final Four. So
yeah, it's just a little trickier.
Yeah, but he's a good basketball coach. Again, they were number 1 seed last year. He's a good basketball coach. Anyway, Dan Wolken in about 10 or so minutes. All right, it is Super Bowl LIX week, Super Bowl 59. Opening night between the two teams that are being portrayed as villain. What? Like, I've seen this conversation. How can both teams be villains?
I mean, Phillies fans, some of them, not all of them.
All right,
been pretty nasty.
I have a question. Are you a wrestling fan at all? Yeah.
Like wrestling?
Like, wrestling.
Back in the day, in the 90s, I used to watch wrestling.
Okay, man, I did too.
It's been a minute.
So, weren't Triple H and The Undertaker both villains? I don't know. They sound like villains to me.
Right.
But I'm sure I understand that there are times where you change, white hat, black hat. I get it.
Yeah.
But I think that they have both been villains, and I know they fought for whatever title you fight for.
Yeah, at the time.
Wrestle for. So we have that.
Mm-hmm.
Yankees and Cardinals in baseball. Of course, I just hate the Cardinals. I don't know if they're villains.
As you should.
They should be.
Yeah.
But here's my question. Why are the Chiefs villains? Because I keep hearing this. Yeah. I hate the Chiefs. I hear it from my son. I hate the Chiefs. Why?
Yeah.
Because they've won 3 of the last 5 Super Bowls?
I think that's some people.
Could be the first team in history to win 3 in a row?
Me personally, that's why I want them to win. I want to be here for history.
Yeah, that's fair. I think the NFL, first of all, dynasties are great in all sports.
Mm-hmm.
The Patriots dynasty was great for the NFL. The Warriors dynasty in the NBA was great for the NBA. The Lakers, the Celtics back in the 70s, 80s, great. The Bulls, my gosh, great for the NBA. Every sport, dynasties, one team constantly winning is great. It's great for interest because it does spark negative interest too. So, because the Chiefs have won 3 of the last 5, that's probably the best reason to give. But there have to be others, and I'm going to explore this real quick. Patrick Mahomes is in too many commercials. He's everywhere.
Maybe. State
Farm commercials. He's in the T-Mobile commercials now. That's really more of a Snoop Dogg thing. He's in too many commercials. I love Snoop Dogg, though.
Yeah.
He's in that Head & Shoulders commercial.
Right.
I kind of think he's good in those commercials.
He is.
I think he's fun, right? So you can't hate him for that. So Travis Kelce is also in a lot of commercials.
Mm-hmm.
Pepsi, Subway. He's in that Lowe's commercial. He and Christian McCaffrey are in the same Lowe's commercial. That's a terrible uniform that they're wearing, by the way.
It's not.
Also, he was doing that Chunky Soup commercial with his brother, Jason Kelce.
Mm-hmm. And their mom. She was in. Donna was in it, too.
When they're both sitting at the table about to eat Chunky Soup, which I'm sure has never happened for the two of them.
No.
But on his cell phone, when he's got the Super Bowl.
Right.
Jason's like, are you serious?
Yep. Then there's the arm wrestling one, too.
I don't know how.
Yeah.
I either haven't seen it or it's out of my brain right now. But see, Travis Kelce's everywhere. Andy Reid is in a lot of commercials.
How can you not like Andy Reid?
I love Andy Reid. But is it because he sort of looks like Clifford the Big Red Dog? I mean, find the lie. Right now, you've just thought about this going, oh my gosh, he looks like Clifford the Big Red Dog.
Doing the side-by-side.
Right? We could do that. Is it because of Taylor Swift?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are leaning that way.
I think that's why my son hates them.
Yeah.
I do.
Right.
I wish I was kidding, but I
Yeah.
think that's why.
Yeah, I think that is for a lot of people.
Right? And if Tanner's listening, yeah.
Yeah, you're
that's
calling
what
it
I
out.
think it is. And you have been called out.
Right. I think there could be another option, too, in case people actually do believe the whole refs and the calling situation, and maybe they feel some type of way about them, like, getting advantages. Potentially.
Okay.
That could be an option.
I think people thought that about the Patriots.
Of course.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah, look, I do not believe that the referees in any way, shape, or form favor any team. I do not believe that. I think we see more Chiefs games, and they win. Mm-hmm. But I don't know that they have been gifted the calls that you think. Like, I think that in the Bills-Chiefs game, and we actually have Roger Goodell talking about this. We're going to play this clip in a second. I believe that in the Bills-Chiefs game not this past weekend, but obviously the weekend before, the interception, I think they got it right. I think the ball, when it touched the ground, did not move. I don't think the ground aided in possession of the ball. And I think ultimately the Chiefs' Xavier Worthy ripped the ball away from Buffalo's defensive back, who should have intercepted it because he caught it first.
Yeah.
But Worthy ripped it out of his hands on the way to the ground, and again, the ball did not move. So to me, that was properly called. I believe in my soul that Buffalo picked up the first down, but there's no way, there was no video evidence to say that he did.
Unfortunately.
Right? And Roger Goodell talked about this as well. So let's play these two clips. Let's talk about the referees first. This is, again, the Commissioners' Forum last night. This is Roger Goodell on the refs favoring the Chiefs.
Well, this sort of reminds me a little bit of the script, right? That I write a script, and I have the script for the entire season. Listen, I think from a lot of those theories are things that happen in social media, and they get a new life. As you say, it's not your theory, but it's out there. Nobody wants it to be their theory. And so I understand that. I think it reflects a lot of the fans' passion. And I think it also is a reminder for us how important officiating is. And I think the men and women that officiate in the NFL are outstanding. They have the highest possible standards. That's ridiculous theory for anyone who might take it seriously. But at the end of the day, it's something we always have to continue to work on. How do we make our officiating better?
Okay. There is a way to make certain parts, certain elements of officiating better. Because this is an absolute truism. This is not a fact, but it is a truism. We can, from space, see stuff.
Yeah.
From space, we can see stuff on the ground.
Mm-hmm.
Why do we determine where the ball is in the NFL? And I realize this is going to sound condescending. With two old guys from, each 25 yards away.
Yeah.
Right? Through bodies.
Makes no sense.
There has to be technology that will tell us where the ball reached.
Cameras are flying around on strings.
Right.
What are we doing?
The overhead camera, though, on that Bills-Chiefs play was still behind the ball.
Yeah.
So we didn't have a good view of whether or not it's sort of like if you watch baseball, you watch a lot of baseball,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And the camera's not directly behind the pitcher, right?
Yep.
The camera's either slightly to the left or slightly to the right. So you don't get a really good perspective over where the home plate is. And so, that wasn't a strike, and then you realize the overhead, oh, look at that.
It was.
That was a baseball outside. I thought it was a strike.
Mm-hmm.
So the camera angles can skew whether or not, something is something. Anyway, here's Goodell on ball spotting technology.
We tested, I think, in the preseason this past year on being able to use that technology. It is complicated. Obviously, you have a lot of humanity that interferes potentially with some of that, at least from a camera angle standpoint. But you also have a shape of the ball that is different, and it's about where the ball is, not where the individual is necessarily. So there are a combination of factors are there, but I do think that technology will exist sometime in the future. We're continuing a lot with our partners is how to advance that as quickly as possible so we can get to that place.
All right.
Well, it's not like they don't have the money for it.
That's the thing. The league is worth $25 billion in revenue a year.
Yeah.
Like, why can't the stitching of the ball or the material that they use, doesn't have to be the surface of the ball. It can be just underneath the surface of the ball where there is, there's some sort of a magnet, whatever it is, where we know exactly where the ball reached.
Yes.
We can do that. They can do that. It is expensive to do stuff like that, and it is complicated to do stuff like that, but my gosh, they can do stuff like that because we spend so much time in the NFL every year, every game. We slow everything down to all right, let's zoom in to, I can see what size this guy's shoes are. Not that how big they are, but you can see the, it's a 11 and a half. It says it right there on the label.
Right.
They can zoom in so close.
See the charm on their necklace.
Right. So how can we not get that right? Well, they have to be able to be better than that.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel bad for Bills fans because I thought they got that first down, but I also realized, they can't prove it.
Yeah.
And as in the legal world, it's not what I know, it's what I can prove. Mm-hmm. And they could not prove that the Bills got that first down. All right, let's take a break. Dan Wolken on the other side, USA Today columnist, wrote basically this about UNC. Is Hubert Davis a top 10 coach in college basketball? If he is, he gets another year to fix this problem. If he isn't, it's time to move on. We'll talk to Dan Wolken about that next.
Raleigh to Boone, Charlotte to Chapel Hill. Your Carolina is covered. Adam Gold on the North Carolina Sports Network.
Tonight's forecast calls for Hurricanes hockey.
Here's Aho with a chance. And he scores! And Sebastian Aho has tied it at 2.
Storm Watch with Adam Gold at 7:30. Puck drop at 8.
He scores! Jackson Blake gets the stick to it. And Carolina scores on the power play to take a 3-2 lead.
On your exclusive home for the Carolina Hurricanes, 99.9 The Fan.
Tim Donnelly here for Zero Res. February is the month for love. Lucky for you, Zero Res is going to spread the love to your rug. It's the Love Your Rug Special. Have you ever Googled the company Zero Res? They have a 4.9 rating, and they want to come in and take all the nasty dirt, dander, bacteria, and germs that keep recirculating again and again and again throughout your house from your carpets and floors and get rid of them. They want you to love your floors the way you should this February. So visit them online at ZeroResRaleigh.com or call 919-995-0000 and get the Love Your Rug Special. That's 3 rooms of carpets cleaned starting at $109 and $100 off air duct cleaning on top of it. It's happening this month from Zero Res. ZeroResRaleigh.com or 919-995-0000.
Robinhood Gold members can now enjoy the VIP treatment, receiving a 3% IRA match on annual retirement contributions. With Robinhood Gold, the perks of the high net worth are now available for any net worth. The new gold standard is here with Robinhood Gold. To receive a 3% boost on annual IRA contributions, sign up at Robinhood.com/gold. Investing involves risk. 3% match requires Robinhood Gold $5 $10 a month for 1 year from first match. Must keep funds in IRA for 5 years. Go to Robinhood.com/boost. Robinhood Financial LLC member SIPC. Gold membership is offered by Robinhood Gold LLC.
Breaking news coming in from Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win, breakaway, pick six, three-point shot, underdog win, buzzer beater, shootout, walk-off, and absolutely every play in between is amazing. From football to basketball and hockey to baseball, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Gambling problem? Call 1-877-718-5543 or visit morethanagame.nc.gov. 21 plus only.
It's bow time.
A leg and thigh dinner from Bojangles for just $5.99?
Leg and thigh dinner from Bojangles for just $5.99?
So crispy.
So crispy.
And juicy.
And juicy.
So much flavor.
So much.
Stop it. What are you doing?
What, you expect me to get this delicious deal and not say anything?
You're unbelievable.
You're unbelievable.
With a boldly seasoned leg and thigh, choice of fixin', a biscuit, and legendary iced tea, it's a deal so good it's worth repeating. So eat and repeat while it lasts.
It's bow time.
It's bow time. Dine in, drive through, or tap your favorite delivery app and have Bojangles come to you. Satisfy your craving for flavor right now with Bojangles 2-piece dinner. 2 pieces of Bojangles dark meat chicken, your choice of fixin', a biscuit, and iced tea for just $5.99. That's right, just $5.99 for limited time at participating Bojangles. What are you waiting for? When you're hungry, it's always bow time.
It's back, folks, and it's better than ever. Who wants to win a custom Canales motorcycle? Dennis Cox here for Law Tigers. The Carolina Hurricanes, Law Tigers, Tobacco Road Harley-Davidson, and Shiny Side Paint are teaming up again to give one lucky fan a custom Canales motorcycle. Go to caniacsbike.com to enter. Sign-ups last until April 6th, and the bike will be given away on the final home game of the season. caniacsbike.com. Law Tigers is a network of independent law firms who are members of the American Association of Motorcycle Injury Lawyers. Law Tigers is not a law firm.
This is Adam Gold.
What, a minute 53 into the game? Heat of the moment?
Right.
What kind of heat of the moment is that? We haven't even gotten to simmer yet.
I know. Did someone flip him off in the parking lot? Like, what are we
seriously.
The Adam Gold Show.
It's the Adam Gold Show. I am Adam Gold. Victoria on the ones and twos. Last night at his radio show, Hubert Davis talked openly about bringing North Carolina basketball into the modern era. This is the players getting paid not only outside of the school parameters, but soon with revenue sharing and how you must treat, athletes at this level differently than you did 3 years ago, let alone 23 years ago. And it comes on the heels of a humiliating loss at Duke in which 87-70 is kind to North Carolina. Dan Wolken, USA Today columnist, we used to do a segment on this show, Dan. I appreciate your time, Dan Wolken, with us. We used to do a segment on this show called Truth Bombs where we would say things, it's really a joke segment, and we would play like an explosion after each truth bomb. Your column, written Saturday night after the game, should have had truth bombs all over it. There are some parts of it, we'll discuss, but the headline is North Carolina serious? What UNC does with basketball coach Hubert Davis will tell us. And the assertion is that Davis might not be a top 10 coach in the league. So I'll let you, in your words, rather than me, explain what you mean by it for the people who have not read it.
Yeah, Adam, look, I think programs hire coaches for all different kinds of reasons. And Hubert Davis, being a first-time head coach, to get the North Carolina job, he got that position because that's who Roy wanted, and because North Carolina likes to hire coaches who are, quote, inside the family. And look, I'm okay with that. You let them see how they do. You let them grow. All that's fine. We're 4 years in now. I think we have a pretty good idea of what kind of program Hubert Davis runs, what kind of team he puts on the floor. And if North Carolina people, not just the fans, but the administration, are looking at that and saying, yeah, this is what we want, this is what we think the program should be, well, I think that's crazy. I think that's absolutely insane. North Carolina is one of the biggest, most important, best brands in all of college sports and really maybe all of sports, period. And I don't think North Carolina should be settling for these results for any reason other than if they believe Hubert Davis is a great coach, if they believe he's an elite coach, and this is just, a bad year, a bad stretch, whatever, and that he's going to have the capability to get this fixed and immediately next year, well, okay, fine. Keep him, give him one more year. But if they're just sort of giving him one more year because they think it's the right thing to do or they think it's the fair thing to do or because it's what Roy would want or any of the sappy nonsense that you might hear, well, that's the wrong way to run your program. And I believe North Carolina should have an elite coach. If you don't believe that's Hubert Davis after 4 years of seeing his team on the floor, then make a change and hire somebody outside the Carolina family.
Dan Wolken is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. Real quick to those points, because I think those are all correct points, but I keep asking this question of everybody I've talked to, and even when I'm just opining about what I saw Saturday night, because I admit that it feels like that was more the micro of what the macro really is. It feels like Duke is going this way, meaning up, and Carolina is either staying where they are or sliding back based on the result of that game. But Carolina had won 5 of the last 6 from Duke. And you're right about the 2022 Final Four run, which, by the way, not began with it, but it was punctuated by that win over Duke on the ultimate senior night, spoiling Mike Krzyzewski's last home game and then beating them again in the Final Four. And Hubert Davis will forever be legendary because of that, although Caleb Love probably and Brady Manick probably had the most to do with it. So that was like a hot streak. But they were a number 1 seed in the NCAA tournament last year. So I just wonder how much of of what you wrote and what you feel is skewed by an ugly, ugly game on Saturday.
Yeah, I understand what you're asking and the point there, but I don't really care that much about the micro. I mean, yes, it was a good opportunity because of how that game played out for me to write a column, but it's not like I just sort of woke up Saturday night and was like, oh, North Carolina got to make a change. I mean, I don't think Hubert Davis is very good. And I haven't thought he's very good for a while. Yes, I know Carolina was the number 1 seed last year. I thought they were a bit of a fraudulent number 1 seed most of the season when I looked at how they played. And, honestly, they had some pretty questionable losses last year. I remember that one game at Georgia Tech. I mean, that just sort of stands out for me. Like, this is not a game you should be losing. And then they got beat by Alabama, who was a better team.
Yes.
In the end, So, I get that they were a 1 seed last year. They won the, mythical ACC regular season title, which don't email me. I know it doesn't exist.
I'm with you. Yeah.
But I just thought they were kind of okay last year. Despite where they ended up in the tournament, the year before, disaster. The year before that, made the national title game, but a month left in the season, they're on the bubble. So I have all these data points in my mind, and I have just made up my mind as an observer and as a columnist that I don't think Hubert Davis is a very good college basketball coach. That's just my opinion.
Dan Wolken is joining us here on the Adam Gold Show. And look, I think, first of all, there's a lot of people that share that opinion. And you say some very nice things about Hubert, and I agree with all of them. I mean, he is as good a human being as you're going to find in the sport. I could argue that he's too good a person for the sport. I mean, I know the guy up the road a little bit. Well, John Shire as well, and I'm friends with somebody on the Duke coaching staff. Like, I know the kind of people that they've got as well. But I think your other point about there's too much in the family stuff, I think there's a lot of people that are coming to that realization about UNC, that it seems like it is a haven for, hey, you used to play here, why don't you come here and coach here too, without necessarily having the chops to do it.
Well, look, I understand when you go from, Dean, and then there's sort of that interim period with Guthridge, and then, the Doherty thing. I mean, Doherty was a real hire. Like Doherty had done well at another school. So, okay, fine. It makes sense. Didn't work out. The Roy thing worked out brilliantly, and Roy was an elite coach before he got to North Carolina. So all that stuff makes sense, but there does come a point where you have to balance it with the reality of what happens in coaching. And yeah, if there was some great coach out there who was killing it, who had that background in North Carolina, who had played for Roy or played for Dean or whatever, I could get on board with that, but that person doesn't exist as far as I can tell. So when you limit yourself in coaching hires to somebody who's familiar with the school or somebody who's an alum or whatever, I just never buy into that stuff. I think it makes people feel good for 5 minutes,
right?
But it doesn't really matter that much.
Mm-mm.
And I also think, to North Carolina's credit, and people can feel however they want about the Belichick situation, but I feel like that hire made a statement largely from the new president that they don't have to pretend like they're better than anybody else, or that, it's about, these high-minded ideals that people want to associate with the North Carolina brand. This is about winning. And the Belichick hire, I don't know how well it's going to work, but they're putting a lot of resources into football.
Yes.
They hired somebody who's a very serious football person. Obviously there's questions about, the age and not being in college and all that stuff. But you hired Bill Belichick. That's amazing. And so I just kind of feel like North Carolina can be on the verge of that in basketball, because it's a much more attractive basketball job than it is a football job. And if they fire Hubert a month from now, I feel like they would get an unbelievably good coach.
Well, they could. It's interesting. Like a Nate Oates at Alabama, or I can't even. I'm so far away from the day-to-day covering of college basketball. Shaka Smart at Marquette. I don't even know if those guys would take the job right now, not because it's North Carolina is. I agree with you. It is the best job in college basketball. It's the best college basketball brand. Duke notwithstanding, Duke might be second on that list, but I think Duke comes with other challenges, right? And obviously I don't think they're in the market for a coach anyway. But I do think that it would be interesting to see, if that job came open, how hard it would be to fill a job where the standard is winning a national championship or failure, because that's what it does appear. I don't feel like you've got that at Alabama or Auburn or Tennessee or Florida or Texas, or in so many places where you've got some of the best teams in the country and some great coaches. So I just think that North Carolina might be, it's sort of like taking the Alabama coaching job. Kalen DeBoer, I'm sure, is a great coach, but I'm sure this year, going whatever they went, wasn't great fun, considering the fishbowl that you've got to live in. Let me just ask you, because I know you, real quick, about Bill Belichick. What was your initial reaction to the hire, to the when North Carolina brought Bill to that press conference?
Well, I tried to reserve an initial reaction just because it was so kind of out of left field.
Yes.
And then obviously took place within, a couple days. It got done. And I don't know, like the more I thought about it, it was just to me like, why not? What do you have to lose? The Mac Brown era did not really do it for me. Part two. I thought it was very, very mediocre. North Carolina football has long been, the sleeping giant
right.
that everybody thinks can be great because of, the brand and the location and all that stuff. I'm not sure that that's true, but also like, look at the ACC. Are you telling me that SMU coming from the American Athletic Conference can make the college football playoff in year one in the ACC, and Bill Belichick can't, outcoach, Pat Narduzzi and Mario Cristobal? Like, give me a break. Like, of course he can.
Yeah.
So I'm totally on board with it. Give it a shot. Who knows how long it'll last? Don't worry about that. Just try to get a couple good years out of it, and maybe that transforms your program.
Yeah, like I've looked at it as, to me, it's transactional in both ways. I think it's Bill using the university to maybe prove a point to the NFL, or maybe to prove a point that college is becoming more like pro, and the university's using Bill Belichick maybe to transform its football program into more of a national model. I don't think either side is necessarily in love with the other. There's nothing familial about it, nothing collegial about it. To me, it's you just hired a football coach, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. Dan Wolken, USA Today, at Dan Wolken on Twitter. Thank you very much for the time, man. I'll talk to you very soon.
Okay, thanks, Adam.
You got it. Dan Wolken here on the Adam Gold Show. When we come back, I want to read that line real quick before we get into one-timers, because we have a lot of stuff to discuss. Next.
Going beyond the box scores. Adam Gold on the North Carolina Sports Network.
It's that time of year to come see me. Don't let COVID-19 and the flu stop you. So make sure you don't have to cancel on those you love the most.
By getting your flu and COVID vaccines. They're safe and effective.
Both flu and COVID vaccines have been updated to fight against new virus strains.
So make sure you don't miss that family gathering and protect those around you. Ask your healthcare provider about updated flu and COVID-19 shots.
Get protected this season with updated COVID-19 and flu shots. Visit myspot.nc.gov and find yours today.
As fall championships begin, the Governor's Highway Safety Program would like to remind you to buckle your seatbelt when traveling home from today's events. Whether you're driving out of town or across town this holiday season, wearing a seatbelt is your best defense against injury or death in a crash. During the busiest time of travel, prioritize your safety and buckle up. Every seat, every time. And remember, click it or ticket. It's the law. This message brought to you by the North Carolina High School Athletic Association and the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
The North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services is looking for people age 21 or older to volunteer in long-term care facilities. Community Advisory Committee volunteers help residents and their families advocate for the needs of individuals living in long-term care facilities, such as nursing homes, assisted living facilities, and family care homes. Volunteers must complete orientation and training to become designated and certified representatives of the Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program. Visit ncdhhs.gov/aging to find your county's ombudsman.
Did you know that since you have public power, your electricity is operated and controlled by people in your community, not by a for-profit investor-owned company? These local folks are directly accountable to you. They don't answer to shareholders. They make decisions for the good of your community. What's more, your public power provider invests in your community, providing jobs and supporting your local economy. Local people working together to meet local needs. That's public power. Learn more at electricities.com.
It's okay not to be okay. Feelings of loneliness, anger, and worry are completely normal, and you're not alone. If you need help coping, call, text, or chat the free 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Someone is always there to talk, day or night. Together, we will find the care that works for you. Just call, text, or chat 988 anytime to talk to a trained counselor who will listen, provide support, and connect you to other resources that can help. Let's get through it together. Brought to you by the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services.
AARP is working hard to make sure people in North Carolina are getting the most out of life. Whether it's helping you stay healthy, save more money, care for loved ones, or simply have some fun, AARP is making a difference in communities across the state. You have a wise friend and fierce defender with AARP. Learn more about progress being made for older adults in the state by listening to AARP Without Limits. You can find the latest episodes of AARP Without Limits wherever you listen to your podcasts.
And we're live here outside the Perez family home, just waiting for the... And there they go, almost on time this morning. Mom is coming out the front door strong with a double-arm kid carry. Looks like Dad has the bags. Daughter is bringing up the rear. Oh, but the diaper bag wasn't closed. Diapers and toys are everywhere. Ooh, but Mom has just nailed the perfect car seat buckle for the toddler. And now the eldest daughter, who looks to be about 9 or 10, has secured herself in the booster seat. Dad zips the bag closed, and they're off. But looks like Mom doesn't realize her coffee cup is still on the roof of the car. And there it goes. Oh, that's a shame. That mug was a fam favorite.
Don't sweat the small stuff. Just nail the big stuff, like making sure your kids are buckled correctly in the right seat for their age and size. Learn more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat.
Visit nhtsa.gov/the
right seat. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
This is Adam Gold.
Home runs are homers, not dingers, not jacks, not bombs. Can I use tater?
No. Can we say going yard?
Oh, yes.
Right?
If we can't exaggerate, if we can't use colorful, flowery metaphors and descriptions, why are we here?
The Adam Gold Show.
It's the Adam Gold Show. I am Adam Gold. Victoria on the ones and twos. Oh, I'm excited. There's fake golf on tonight.
Oh, boy.
I actually watched last Monday because it was Tiger, and Aileen wanted to watch it.
Yeah.
And it was entertaining.
Yeah.
So,
is he not going to be here tonight?
No, Tiger's not playing tonight.
Oh, okay.
Rory is playing tonight after Rory just won yesterday.
Well, see, that'll get you to watch.
No, I'm not going to watch. I got hockey.
That's true. We do have hockey, not in Carolina.
All right, real quick, I want to read this from Dan. This is from Dan Wolken's column on, I guess he wrote it Saturday night after the game. About North Carolina. Do they have one of the top 10 basketball coaches in the country or not? If the Tar Heels believe they do, then Davis should get one more chance to fix a program that looks shockingly broken. It was hard not to conclude that from the result and the way the game played out. If they conclude that Davis isn't a top 10 coach, then they need to make a change. They need to do it after this season, and they need to hire someone who fits in that category regardless of whether that person has any prior connection to the school. That is a fair assessment of what North Carolina's plan should be going forward if they determine that Hubert Davis is not a top 10 coach. Here's the thing. I don't know how you determine that, because I'm not sure that we would say that John Shire is a top 10 coach. Maybe he is. Because I'm not even sure how you judge that. There is a different era of coaching right now. All of those legends, the Kays, the Roys, the Boeheims, only Pitino, who I'm not sure is actually really alive, only Rick Pitino is still doing it. Actually, Leonard Hamilton, 76, I believe, when he announced his retirement. We'll talk about that later on. Anyway, I'm just not sure how you determine what top 10 is and top 10 isn't. It's really going to be about results and how they modernize this program, and they talked about it last night on the Hubert Davis Show. Anyway, we'll delve into more of that with Bomani Jones coming up next hour. Right now, it's one-timers.
Okay, well, I'll kick some things off with UNC questions.
Sure.
So, if you did keep Hubert a little bit longer, how much time do you think he should get to turn the basketball program around?
I don't know if you put... I honestly don't know if you put a time on it. I mean, I think you could argue that, I mean, a lot of Dan Wolken's points are right. They were only an 8 seed back in 22 when they went to the Final Four. They were a 1 seed last year when they lost in the Sweet 16, which, honestly, some of those things can be, you could argue one way or the other. I think it depends on, they just need to recruit better players. This year has so much been a roster problem, not a program problem. Maybe the roster is a program problem, and we talked about it yesterday. I don't think their high school recruiting has been at North Carolina levels, but I think that's really goes back beyond Hubert, if we're being fair.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that kind of answers the next one, but another one. So if UNC does seem to struggle for multiple years, how long do you think it might impact the image, which they have a long-standing image, but how long do you think it might take before it impacts their image on being a basketball program school?
I would say a very, 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 very long time. It's taken a long time out of the national spotlight for Indiana to just be another school. A really long time.
Yeah.
That's what Indiana is now. But again, they haven't been Indiana, like a blue blood program, probably for a quarter of a century.
Yeah.
So it would take a long time.
Okay, well, moving on to a different blue. So, which teams, if any, do you see Duke actually struggling against and keeping it competitive?
The only team that they shouldn't beat by double digits the rest of the way is Illinois in Madison Square Garden. Illinois is very good, and that'll be a neutral court game, but it's really a Duke home game because it's New York, and they're great at Madison Square Garden. But to me, if Duke is locked in, we're talking about the second weekend of the NCAA tournament before they play somebody who can legitimately, when Duke is playing well, give them a game. That is just the reality.
Yeah, they're crazy good. Well, moving on to football, NFL to be specific, what are your thoughts on an 18-game season?
It's criminal. Honestly, we shouldn't have a 17-game season. It's just greed. The players don't get nearly... the players get more money. Yeah, it's not the same. The players' more money is nothing compared to what the league and the owners make off of it. The players just are powerless. It's the worst collective bargaining agreement in sports, unless you're a quarterback, and then it's awesome. So, no, but they're going to go to 18 because they don't really care about the well-being of the players. They never have.
Going beyond the box scores. Adam Gold on the North Carolina Sports Network.
Bonuses used to be everywhere. Boxes of cereal, a baker's dozen, airline upgrades, even without quadruple diamond platinum status. Life is better with the bonus. That's why the North Carolina Education Lottery is adding bonus chances to multiply your win on Multiply the Cash scratch-offs. More chances than ever to win over $140 million in total prizes. Because everything is better with a bonus. Must be 18 to play. Approximate overall odds of winning range from 1 in 3.31 to 4.86. Problem gambling helpline 877-718-5543.
When it comes to the biggest games of all time, the original Abbey Road Tavern and Grill is the road to a good time. This year for the big game, come get your appetizers, buy one, get one half off. Take out or dine in. Dine in and also score great drink specials like $5 Bloody Marys and mimosas, $3.50 Coors Banquet and Yingling Fight bottles, $9 Yingling personal pitchers, and all Crown Royal flavors are just $6. It's the original Abbey Road Tavern and Grill for the big game in Cary on West Chatham Street and Apex on Center Street. AbbeyRoadNC.com.
Don't go through another year with all that high interest debt. Let Loan Pronto wipe it all out now. Hey, it's Dennis Cox. Loan Pronto's Rapid Equity Loan makes it easy to pay off all your credit cards or tackle that 2025 home improvement project. Get cash in your pocket fast. No appraisals, no paperwork, no waiting. Loan Pronto's AI-driven tech gets you approved and funded in as little as 1 day. One client got $150,000 approved in under 24 hours. paid off all their credit cards, 2 cars, and a personal loan, saving over $1,500 per month. With low fixed rates and lightning fast transfers, you can do it too. Consolidate debt, improve your home, take control of your finances. Imagine being credit card debt-free by this time next week. Don't wait. Call Loan Pronto now, 919-381-1760, or visit loanpronto.com. Get a free rate quote with no hard credit pull, 919-381-1760, loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
If you're 55 and up, T-Mobile has plans built just for you. 2 lines of unlimited for just $30 a line. That's a 45% savings compared to Verizon and AT&T. But don't just take our word for it.
It's not just the savings that are great with our T-Mobile plan. There's all this value from all these other things that T-Mobile offers.
T-Mobile has been such a savings for us.
We love it.
Switch today and get 2 free 5G phones like the Motorola Edge with Turbo Power charging that gives you power for the day in just 15 minutes. And customers 55 and up can get 2 lines of talk, text, and data for only $30 a line. Go to T-Mobile.com/choice55 to learn more. With AutoPay plus taxes and fees, plus $5 per line without AutoPay. Debit or bank account required. 45% off 2 lines versus AT&T Starter and Verizon Welcome. Plan benefits vary. Motorola Edge on us with 24 monthly bill credits and new line for well-qualified customers, plus tax and $35 per line connection charge. See details at T-Mobile.com. Motorola Edge requires 68-watt charger. Charger sold separately. Actual performance will vary based on usage and configuration.
It's been said that when someone you love has Parkinson's, you have Parkinson's. If you have questions, the Parkinson's Foundation has answers. Learn more at parkinson.org or call 1-800-473-4636.
Hey, Mom, I've been meaning to talk to you about some new COVID information I saw online.
Uh-huh.
I read that Black folks like us with certain conditions like diabetes, heart disease, mental health conditions, or being 50 and older, like you, are at high risk.
Boy, you sound like a commercial.
I'm just saying. I know you love your ginger teas and essential oils, but remember, there are treatment options for COVID-19.
I promise if I get sick again, I'll call my doctor to ask about my options.
Visit WeTalkWeRise.com to learn more. Brought to you by Pfizer.
This hour of the Triangle Sports Leader is powered by Ritchie Law Firm, injury lawyers. Ritchie Law is on top of it. Go to RitchieLaw.com.
That's RitchieLaw.com.
WCMC HD1 Holly Springs. Take us with you on the radio, Instagram, TikTok, Alexa, and YouTube. 99.9 The Fan, the Triangle Sports Leader.
I am going to increase the staff, and it's needed. I never would have thought. There's just so much stuff out there, and I mentioned owner, GM, fundraiser, basketball coach. It's so much on the plate that will take you away from doing what's the most important thing, is coaching basketball. And so, yes, we're going to hire a GM, a director of marketing and fundraising for NIL, for program need. The old model for Carolina basketball just doesn't work. It's not sustainable. It has to build out.
It's the Adam Gold Show. I'm Adam Gold. Victoria is on the ones and twos, and we are live on YouTube, as we are every day. We're here noon to 3. You can join us noon to 3 wherever you are if you've got YouTube capability. YouTube.com/Adam Gold Show /999 The Fan. Either way, it works. And then, of course, we spit most of the program out in podcast form. Little bite-sized pieces, interviews, other thoughts, salacious material, gossip. No, not really. We don't do that. So thank you very much for doing it. And if you do subscribe to the show podcast, rate it, share it, like it, whatever. Same thing with the YouTube stuff. All right. Bomani Jones is going to join us in about 20 minutes. We are going to dig into Luka Doncic from Dallas to L.A. I am amazed. I shouldn't be amazed by it. It is rare that a player of Luka Doncic's stature gets traded at all, even though Kareem was traded. He was Lou Alcindor at the time, I believe, of the trade, but he was traded. So it has happened. But Doncic who was a couple of years away from signing a max deal with Dallas. What were we told yesterday? 6 years, $350 million. Dallas, for whatever reason, lack of conditioning, injury, lack of give a bleep to play defense, all of that stuff. Maybe that's the driving force as to why they decided they had to make this move. I have not seen a single comment about it that doesn't start with, what the blank is Dallas thinking? My son walks into the kitchen yesterday, younger son, much more of an NBA fan. My older son doesn't even care about the NBA. But younger son loves it. He walks into the kitchen last night and ripping Dallas for making this trade. And I'm like, well, they decided that he wasn't in good. I don't care. He wouldn't even hear.
No.
It was
Nothing
like
matters.
It was like I was posting on social media.
Yeah.
Like, I don't agree with it. I think it's a crazy deal. But
wasn't your decision
right,
either.
I'm just like, this is what they thought.
You're catching the fire.
So, and he was like, he wanted none of it. So, I get it. It does seem like, WTF, Dallas, what are you doing? There's a 6.5 year difference between Luka's age and Anthony Davis's age. Luka, as long as he's in decent shape, should age better than Anthony Davis, who's always hurt anyway. So I don't know how it's going to work out for Dallas. Probably, I don't know, maybe better in the short term. I don't know. Luka carried them to the NBA Finals last year. I don't even get it. Right? Did they go to the finals last year? Dallas? I think they made the finals. They lost to Boston in the finals. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it worked pretty well last year. And they lost to the best team. So, we'll talk to Bomani about that, and we'll also delve into UNC versus Duke, but not necessarily that game, although that game gives us, I think, maybe some insight as to the differences between the programs. So that was Hubert Davis coming back from the break. That was from his radio show yesterday, in which he announced to the University of North Carolina basketball fandom that our way that we have been doing it for the last 60-some years doesn't work anymore. And there is a lot of truth to that. There's a lot of reality, and that's maybe what happened Saturday night. That was reality hitting you with a 2x4. That the college sports these days, with everything that you need to think of, whether it's the transfer portal, re-recruiting your own players, high school recruiting, the money that kids are allowed to receive, whether it's through name, image, and likeness, flat-out payments from collectives, which are not necessarily tied to your actual value in a marketplace, other than the sports marketplace. Revenue sharing when it comes to the House versus the NCAA settlement, which we still don't know the parameters of. It's supposed to go into effect in July. We haven't seen anything really resembling the framework of it. It's all been discussion. But it's going to be different. And it does appear, I shouldn't say it does appear, North Carolina is late to the party. How long will it take to build this out? How long will it take to get UNC basketball on proper footing in terms of having a team that looks like UNC? I'm not 100% sure that those two things have to be related, because honestly, putting on the uniform should attract players. Harrison Ingram and Cormac Ryan both put on the uniform last year, and while maybe it wasn't a vintage UNC team, yes, they were a 1 seed. Yes, they went 17-3 in the league. Yes, they swept the 2-game series from Duke. But they weren't like a national power, but they were still, clearly a top 10 team in the country. you attract, because you're UNC, you attract 2 good players out of the transfer portal, or Caleb Wilson, the 7th rated recruit on ESPN's recruiting list. You put him on the court. Maybe he's a game-changing player. I've never seen him. But then again, I had never seen Cooper Flagg before this year. Caleb Wilson doesn't have the same reputation as like a Cameron Boozer or an A.J. DeBanza, who's going to BYU, who's the number 1 player in the group, in the class. But you put a couple of dominant players on the court, and we think totally differently about North Carolina than we did based on what happened Saturday. So while, and I keep saying this, but it's important sometimes to separate the result of the game, even how it looks, from the bigger picture, because we have been down this road where, oh man, this looks totally different. This looks like it's a sea change. It's going the other way. Because in the span of about 3 years, we went from, man, Duke's sinking. North Carolina's never going to, they're always going to be ahead of them. Seriously, we were there, I would say, in the early teens. In like 11, even coming after a national championship, which Duke won in 10. 11, 12, 13, oh man, Duke's never going to catch up. Carolina's always going to be ahead. Then Duke won the title in 15. And then Carolina reestablished themselves, right? With the Marcus Page teams that went to and lost, but ultimately won a national championship. And Duke hasn't won a title since 15. We're coming up on the 10-year anniversary of that. So we run the risk of overemphasizing the result of the game. With that said, and I said it yesterday, it does feel as though we're separating, where Duke is like they came to a fork in the road. Duke went to the right. Carolina went to the left. The left happens to be a cliff. The right happens to be a highway. That's the way it looked. Based on that game, that's the way it looks based on the infrastructure. And I don't know how long it's going to take Carolina to rebuild that or build it out. But I do think that you land 2 good players, whether it's out of the portal or it's in freshman recruiting, it can change the way you look right away. Right away. And for years we thought, well, the way to win in college basketball is to do it with older players. Because it looked like that was what was working. And I'm not saying that you don't need older players. Villanova won with veterans. Not all veterans, but veterans. Carolina won with veterans. Sprinkled in amongst that were younger players, but they basically won with veterans. But looks like Duke's going to win a lot of games this year with primarily freshmen. Flagg, Knipple, Malawach, Evans. I mean, they're loaded with, but they also have Proctor's a junior. Caleb Foster's a sophomore. Sion James, Mason Gillis, and Malik Brown are all upperclassmen. They've all been around college basketball for a long time. So, and John Shire talked about it after the game Saturday. There's not a singular way to win. Because the truth of the matter is that if you are talking about winning with freshmen, based on your freshmen, it really hasn't been done very often at all. You need good freshmen. You need great players, but you also need the basis of leadership. And I do think you need the basis of program continuity. So what Carolina hasn't gotten and I would argue even when they went to the Final Four and nearly beat Kansas, is Carolina has not had a guy. Caleb Love looked like it in 22, but he wasn't really. If he was that player, he'd be in the NBA already and not playing out his final 5 years of college basketball. If he was that guy, Armando Bacot, who had a great college career. I mean, if you're 6'9", 6'10", rebound like that, score like that, and you're still playing college ball 5 years in, all right. You could be a great college player, but you're not that guy. Carolina adds that guy, a guy who's going to be 1 year and then bye, I'm going to the league, who's a legit player. Well, that's a different story. But they haven't had that guy in a while. It's been a long time since. And it used to be I forget how long the run was. But if like every NBA champion over I don't know how long a period of time had a player who played at North Carolina when they won the NBA title. It's just incredible. It's not that many Carolina guys playing in the NBA right now. There just aren't. There are 23 Duke Blue Devils on NBA rosters today. 23 Duke Blue Devils. Duke and Kentucky produce the most NBA players. Carolina's just kind of in the mix. But I think the number I saw was 6, maybe 7. That number should be closer to where Duke is. So to me, the high school recruiting has had a lot to do with where North Carolina is. But I think it's a lot of things. And maybe the modernization will help Carolina build this out and reestablish itself. But again, I can't help but think that what we saw Saturday night doesn't skew the numbers, doesn't skew our opinion of all of it. All right, we'll take a break. We'll come back. Bomani Jones is going to join us on the other side. We will, I guess, scratch a basketball Jones itch, if you will. But we'll talk about Luka Doncic and LeBron James and Dallas and the Lakers, and then we'll get into UNC and Hubert Davis with Bomani Jones next.
Serving it up hot and fresh every day. Adam Gold on the North Carolina Sports Network.
From 32 to 2, Kansas City.
The Chiefs have won again. They have beaten the Buffalo Bills 32-29.
Philadelphia.
20, 15, 10, touchdown, Saquon Barkley.
Join 99.9 The Fan on Super Bowl Sunday, February 9th. Super Bowl Sunday on 99.9 The Fan is presented by First Horizon Bank and Wake Men. 99.9 The Fan, the Triangle Sports leader.
Hi, this is Mike Maniscalco. Do you want to increase the value of your home and decrease the cost of energy bills? If your home needs new windows, siding, doors, and more, look no further than your locally owned Window World, the Triangle's most trusted and America's largest exterior remodeler. A proud sponsor of the Canes, Window World will get your home looking great on the outside while saving on energy costs inside. Search Window World for a free quote today.
Jackson Hewitt makes taxes feel like a yacht rock song.
Please, give me my biggest tax refund, please. You, me, and a lifetime accuracy guarantee.
And now get $100 just to try Jackson Hewitt. Does your tax person do that?
Say goodbye to that no guarantee tax guy.
Ready to sail through tax season? Go to Jackson Hewitt and you'll be... Limited time offer for new clients. Participating locations only. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com.
John Porcelain here for my friends at Buffalo Brothers. You know the big game is right around the corner, and it's time to start thinking about big game parties. Don't be that guy that doesn't get the best wings in town. So order your wings today from Buffalo Brothers. Come and get Buffalo Brothers Big Game Special. 2 large pizzas and 20 wings for just $50. That's food for the whole family at more than 20% off. But remember, order today as pickup times fill up fast. Buffalo Brothers. Oh man, now I want wings.
Hey guys, Valentine's Day is right around the corner, and Cupid's arrow is pointing straight to Bailey's. We're here to help and make it easy for you to find the perfect gift for the one you love. Bailey's has something for everyone and every budget. We have a huge selection of jewelry and gifts for under $500, from David Yurman, Apolita, Mickey Moto, Lagos, and more. And if you're looking for something extra special, we also have an amazing selection of diamond jewelry. Shop in-store or online at baileybox.com. Give her a gift that's better than chocolate or roses with the easiest and can't-miss way to make her Valentine's Day extra special with a little black and white striped box from Bailey's Fine Jewelry. Located in Raleigh's Village District and Crabtree Valley Mall, also in Cary's Fenton, Rocky Mount, and Greenville. Just a little reminder from me, Marcy Bailey. Every woman wants a Bailey box.
Progressive presents Renter's MVP's Most Valuable Possessions. Today's MVP, Joe Fallon's bedroom mini fridge. Sure, this pint-sized chiller's max capacity is 3 soda cans, but what it lacks in stature, it makes up in cooling strength. Each beverage a perfect 37 degrees every time. And the 2 feet Joe walks to get a drink, priceless. That's why his mini fridge is today's MVP. Keep your most valuable possessions protected by bundling your renters and auto insurance with Progressive. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company affiliates and other insurers not available in all states.
Injured in a motorcycle accident? Call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS before you call your insurance company. The insurance company wants to pay you the least amount possible. Law Tigers are riders too, so we understand what your bike and gear are worth and what you're going through after an accident. Your case evaluation is always free, and we don't get paid until your case settles. Call 1-800-LAW-TIGERS, North Carolina's motorcycle lawyers. Law Tigers is a network of independent law firms who are members of the American Association of Motorcycle Injury Lawyers. Law Tigers is not a law firm.
This is Adam Gold.
I know Bill Belichick is making his weekly appearance on McAfee right now. It almost looks like he's in the connecting area between the 2 train cars.
Yeah.
Right?
Girl washing station in a lab.
Carolina hazmat suit he's got on. It's weird.
It has sleeves and everything.
Very, very strange wherever Belichick is.
The Adam Gold Show.
It's the Adam Gold Show. I'm Adam Gold. Thank you very much for spending some time with us this afternoon. I came home from the hockey game Saturday night. Canes lost to the Kings, and I did the right thing. I didn't look at my phone on the drive home. You know, there's a lot of deer on my ride home. And then when I got home, I'm glad I didn't, because I might have driven off the road when I saw that Luka Doncic was traded from Dallas to the Los Angeles Lakers. I could not believe it. And part of me still can't believe it, but I saw Luka was introduced with his Lakers number 77 jersey, and I thought Bomani Jones would have a great read on what we saw, and he joins us on the Adam Gold Show Right Time podcast. I know you were in town. I hope it all went well. Coming up this past Saturday night. Was it a good time?
No, it was a good time. And the last thing that happened before I left for the airport is I wake up at 5:15 because I had an early flight. And I look down, and I got a text from my boss to me and my producer saying how he hated the timing of this because it happened on a Saturday night.
Right.
And he said hated the timing of this Luka AD trade, and I had no context. So I was like, who the hell is AD? Like, there was no way in the world that you were telling me that Luka Doncic got, like, Luka Doncic by himself getting traded would have been one thing, but there's no way you were telling me he got traded to the Lakers for Anthony Davis. And then it turned out to be true. And right. I'll tell you this, my boss was mistaken in the sense that I cannot think of the last time there was an NBA story so big that it has had people as captivated as this one has now for going on a strong, we're past the 48, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, we're like in the 72-hour range.
Yep.
And people are still like, it is amazing how much attention this has kept from everyone.
We'll get to the actual nuts and bolts of the trade and what it means in a second. Can you think of another trade, midseason or not, where a player of this stature was traded? The only one I could come up with was Kareem from Milwaukee to the Lakers, 73 72,
That was
73?
a 75.
Okay.
That was a 75. I mean, I think that we could find comparable players at different points or different parts of their careers that have been moved, though I guess it's normally a little farther along in their development. But like Charles Barkley getting traded in 1992, for example, I think that Luka and Chuck are fairly, as crazy as that may seem to the young people. Like, I think we're talking about like a similar caliber of superstar, as long as neither of them has a ring. Anthony Davis, you don't see guys like that. You don't see guys that good be the secondary piece in a trade like ever, right? Like this. What made the trade underwhelming to me, and it's interesting because when you go back and look at a lot of old school, like big trades like the ones that we're talking about, they're almost always lopsided because the whole game hadn't gotten so sophisticated with what it was to have a draft and everything, and like the idea of these picks and swaps and all of this stuff. That's the part that wound up underwhelming people. But the idea that Luka Doncic and Anthony Davis were involved in a trade for each other, I got nothing on that happening.
Yeah, I mean, we have stuff like that in other sports, but we haven't seen it really in the NBA. So to the nuts and bolts of this, because the overwhelming, just in my own house, I was my son Jack is a huge NBA fan, is still mad. I mean, he walked into the kitchen and completely dismissed me. I was trying to explain, well, Dallas, they're afraid his conditioning. He was like, I don't care. Like, he was yelling at me. I'm like, I could get this on Twitter, dude. I don't need it from you in my kitchen table. The nuts and bolts of this trade, does it make Dallas better today? I don't know that it makes the Lakers better today because they gave away a big man like that, but does it make Dallas better today?
I think it makes Dallas interesting today. How much better it makes them becomes, well, first of all, yes, it makes them better today because I think Anthony Davis is more likely to play his next game than Luka Doncic is to play his next game, which is part of why we're here in the first place, right? The idea that you will have some Anthony Davis on the floor with either Derek Lively or Daniel Gafford has got to be like some terrifying no-fly zone kind of stuff. And Anthony Davis kind of gets to be the defender that he wants to be, which is not so much the interior anchor, but like this roving player who can like basically shut down everything inside the three-point line. They are going to play I think they'll play some great defense, and that'll be interesting. The only thing is, Anthony Davis doesn't want to play center, but Anthony Davis doesn't have the range on his shot that is expected of a modern power forward, which is to say that if you have him out there on the floor with Lively or Gafford, nobody can really shoot that well. Anthony Davis was great shooting empty gym jumpers in the bubble, but they're going to have spacing issues when they have the ball. With the Lakers, I mean, you just took the team away from LeBron James and gave it to Luka Doncic. This is a fascinating development of it for me. Now, the thing for me is Luka's useless playing off the ball. LeBron is not useless playing off the ball, but I don't know how much fun LeBron is going to have living in Luka Doncic's world. Like, normally when something like that happens, it's the product of a slow transition. I've never seen anything like this happen in the middle of a season.
So I understand LeBron said he found out about this when he was at dinner with his family in New York because the Lakers had just played the Knicks at Madison Square Garden. And, of course, his family is like a teammate. But are we really to believe that he had no clue at all that this was even a possibility given the relationship between he and J.J. Redick? Did they not consult Redick at all? Because it does appear, because I agree, that Luka has to have the ball. LeBron could probably get away with not having it, but I'm not sure you're using him the best way either. I just find it hard to believe that LeBron was completely blindsided by all this.
I initially thought it was impossible for that to be the case. I absolutely believe he did not know a thing.
But Redick would have had to have known, right?
No, I don't think anybody knew. I think everybody involved in this had an understanding. I realized how unbalanced the straps are as I was talking, and so I became.
Oh no, that's fine. I'm just staring into the camera. I just assume you look handsome.
Oh, okay, cool. I look real OCD-ish right now over here. But anyway, no, I asked an agent if LeBron knew.
Right.
He said, absolutely not. And he said, how do you know LeBron didn't know? Because if LeBron and Rich Paul had known, they would have blown this thing up before it had any chance of happening. This would have been in the streets that this was a possibility, and then everybody in the league would have lined up, and then this plays out a whole lot differently. None of this serves the interest of LeBron James. It doesn't get the Lakers any closer to winning right now, and he's working on a short time window, and it strips his power away from him in the role that he and his agent have had with that organization. No chance that they knew. And the fact that it's crazy that he didn't know is actually the story. Because I think you and I were both looking at it from the standpoint of a superstar like LeBron James is made aware of when a team makes a move like this, except the team just told him that you're not our superstar anymore.
Right. Yeah, the other guy's a superstar. So I don't know how this impacts LeBron James' future with the Lakers. Is this it? Is this the last year and then, he moves on? Like, LeBron is still, I can't even say, is he a top 15 player in the league still? He's still a hugely impactful player, regardless of where he slots among the league's best. Whether it's helping the Lakers win or helping another franchise win, it also impacts Bronny, I'm guessing here. But, this to me is like, can you use LeBron to get Luka in shape? Is that the plan?
So that raises some very interesting questions, chief among them being, how does Luka Doncic view himself vis-a-vis LeBron James? And I think he absolutely views himself as a better player right now than LeBron James is. Does he view himself, is he like the argument that LeBron can now take Luka under his wing? That can only happen if you want to be taken under a wing.
Right.
And I don't know if that's the case, because what is clear is that nobody in Dallas could get through to him, right? Like, this trade doesn't happen if the admonitions of the people who know him the best had worked. That does not lead me to believe that he's going to show up in a new place and now suddenly be ready to listen, right? That would require him to look at the circumstances that got him traded and say to himself, man, I really could have handled this differently and it didn't have to be like that. Right now, he seems to be in the phase of believing that he was done wrong, which he may have an argument for, but that does not necessarily translate into a Rocky montage and he's going to start running on the sand of the beach,
or running the steps of the Philadelphia Museum of Art. Now, it's interesting that he was a teammate of Kyrie Irving, who oftentimes early in his career, when LeBron James went back to Cleveland, publicly said, I have a father, I don't need a father figure. And he bristled at being, essentially coached / led by James. It'll be interesting if Luka wants to do the same thing. Do you so real quick, we'll wrap this, and I want to ask you about Carolina basketball based on what we saw Saturday. Do you think LeBron is with the Lakers next year?
A slight lean against it. I think that for LeBron's larger interests outside of basketball, being in LA generally and being a Laker specifically is very helpful. I think he wants to be a part of the fabric of that city in that way for his Hollywood aspirations.
Sure.
The question would be, if it were not the Lakers, then where would he be and what would make it worth it? And I don't know just how – I don't know this literally. Like, I don't know how self-aware he is about his basketball mortality. Like, my thing is, this idea that you just keep playing until you can't play anymore, I don't think that's the way to go about this. Like, you don't have to run it down to the nub.
You don't have to Tom Brady this thing.
Right. But even Tom Brady could have probably played a little more, right? But Brett Favre, like, he got it all the way down to the nub.
Aaron Rodgers looks like he's going to do the same thing.
It's nubby, looking nubby.
All right, final thing. Is what happened at Cameron Indoor Stadium on Saturday night, where Duke could have, whatever the final score Duke wanted it to be, it could have been. Is that the microcosm of the difference between the two programs? Hubert Davis said last night on his coach's show they're going to hire a GM. They're going to build out the coaching staff to incorporate a lot of other elements into it, something that Duke has done when John Shire took over 3 years ago. Is it a micro or is it just a game, just a season, or is it a bigger picture thing?
No, I think it's a bigger picture thing. I think it is clear. And this has happened with Carolina before. This is the case for Matt Doherty, is that he showed up to a program that had gotten a little stale and didn't realize it. Because when part of what you sell is tradition, it becomes really hard for you to move on to whatever the next thing is, because what the last thing is your hook, right? Duke is a different job in the sense that as big a brand it is and everything else, it's harder to win there, right? Like Carolina, I think, still has a lot of natural advantages that make that an easier place that when that thing gets humming, to keep it humming. Duke has got to be a little bit different. Like, it's got to be a little more boutique about how it goes about things to provide something that's a bit more like specifically effective about why you should go here and da. Carolina's in a different place where they can say to themselves, okay, we're just going to keep getting people because we're the school of Michael Jordan. We'll just keep doing this because da. And that ain't going to work no more, right? The brand and the family is not enough in this era where people are making cold, hard cash to get this. You're going to have to turn this into what all of this has become, which is a professional basketball program.
Yeah, and Duke has done that. Duke's way ahead of North Carolina with regards to that. They have, it's probably 6, 7, 8 years, maybe going back to Zion, even before then, that Duke has operated as though it were an NBA team.
Yeah, like it was a little, I did find it a bit off-putting that the sell is put your brand with our brand and look how big our brands get, right? Like that. We don't want it to be that. I'm not saying they were wrong. I'm not saying there was anything immoral about the approach. But, like, anytime people start talking about brands, I just kind of roll my eyes, even though, I feel like I got one. But I think people know what I mean on that one. But that's the game, right? And what Duke had to sell was a brand, a really, really, really strong brand. And they pushed that.
All right, final element of this. I was looking at it. There are 8 UNC basketball players in the NBA, just 8, only 4 of which average double figures. There are 23 Duke players. They have more players averaging 20 points a game in the NBA than Carolina's got players effectively playing in the NBA. How much does that play a role in all of this?
It depends on what kind of program you're trying to run, right? Like, I think it's going to be a difference, obviously, of the coming era and however many years ago is going to be the fact that good players are going to stay longer because they can make more money in school, right? Like the need to get away and get out is not the same. So I think that Duke made the decision to change their approach starting around 2009, 2010. That's when they started going hard on the one and dones, right? If you take that 10-year period and compare it to the 10-year period before it, the results at Duke University were roughly the same.
Right.
Like, it didn't make them necessarily any more successful. And so what do you care about? Do you want to be successful in college basketball, or do you want to produce a bunch of pros? Now, you can ask yourself the question, does producing pros then mean that you are going to get more pros? That's a fair question. But we have seen what wins you championships in college basketball, at least in this recent time, has been getting old. And getting old often means getting players who are not going to play in the NBA, because if they were going to play in the NBA, they wouldn't still be in college. But if you believe, and I think it's a fair belief, that the branding of your players as being in the NBA then adds to what you do in recruiting, then absolutely it matters. But if you get the same results either way, it's just something to talk about.
Bomani Jones, at Bomani_Jones, the Right Time Podcast. I appreciate your time. We will talk again down the road, my friend. I appreciate it.
All right. I appreciate you, man. You take it easy.
You got it. Bomani Jones here on the Adam Gold Show. He's right? In that it depends on what kind of program. If you're trying to win in college basketball, older wins. But here's my only counter to that is that at some point, it's going to be about enhancing your roster of stars who happen to be young with veterans who can be really good to great, but enhance young. I think that's what's going on at Auburn, who's got some dynamite dynamic freshmen, but also an incredible older player who's one of the best players in the country. What is the reason for Auburn being that good? What is the reason for Kansas being that good? Is it some of their young players, or is it Hunter Dickinson, who I don't love? What is the reason for Alabama being as good as they are? Tennessee being as good as they are? Like, yes, older matters, but at some point, it's how great is your roster? We'll find out. Do I think Duke's going to win the national championship this year? I think they're going to be in it for a long run. Right? I do. I think they will be in it for a long run. It remains to be seen. If this team isn't in it for a long run, then because I just think we're about to see a change, maybe bouncing back towards building through high school recruiting, because now you can keep players and they can make money. There will be fewer players who will test those waters. I've been saying this for, a decade. If players can actually earn money in college based on who they are, based on how they play, the chances of some players saying, I don't need to be a second-round pick in the NBA draft. I can stay in school and make, regardless of what the equivalent money is, I can get money in my pocket, and then if I'm ever good enough to go, I'll go then. And think about it in those terms. Again, I use the example of Marcus Page all the time. Armando Bacot set himself up for life with the money he was able to earn at UNC. Marcus Page would have done exactly the same thing. Maybe more. Honestly, maybe more. Page was that kind of player for the Tar Heels. He was that kind of a face of UNC's basketball program. He just wasn't the face for as long as Armando Bacot was the face of UNC basketball. All right, we'll break. We will come back. We will take our seventh inning stretch, and we will place bets. Your prop of the day for the Super Bowl coming your way next.
Serving it up hot and fresh every day. Adam Gold on the North Carolina Sports Network.
The North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services is looking for people age 21 or older to volunteer in long-term care facilities. Community Advisory Committee volunteers help residents and their families advocate for the needs of individuals living in long-term care facilities, such as nursing homes, assisted living facilities, and family care homes. Volunteers must complete orientation and training to become designated and certified representatives of the Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program. Visit ncdhhs.gov/aging to find your county's ombudsman.
Hey, it's Adam Gold, and I'm not sure you're aware of this. No, of course you're aware of this. Super Bowl 59 is here. It's the big week, and no better way to make every moment more exciting than with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. They make it easy to have the most fun during the big game. Saquon Barkley, 25 or more rushing yards in each quarter. You can do that. That's hard. Either quarterback to catch a pass. That could happen. How about a big man touchdown? Any offensive lineman to score a TD. Place a $5 bet. If you win, you get $200 in bonus bets. FanDuel.com/AGS. FanDuel.com/AGS. FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. 21 and over and present in North Carolina. First online real money wager only. $5 first deposit required. Bonuses issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 877-718-5543 or visit morethanagame.nc.gov.
It's okay not to be okay. Feelings of loneliness, anger, and worry are completely normal, and you're not alone. If you need help coping, call, text, or chat the free 988 Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Someone is always there to talk, day or night. Together, we will find the care that works for you. Just call, text, or chat 988 anytime to talk to a trained counselor who will listen, provide support, and connect you to other resources that can help. Let's get through it together. Brought to you by the North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services.
Did you know that since you have public power, your electricity is operated and controlled by people in your community, not by a for-profit, investor-owned company? These local folks are directly accountable to you. They don't answer to shareholders. They make decisions for the good of your community. What's more, your public power provider invests in your community, providing jobs and supporting your local economy. Local people working together to meet local needs. That's public power. Learn more at electricities.com.
As fall championships begin, the Governor's Highway Safety Program would like to remind you to buckle your seatbelt when traveling home from today's events. Whether you're driving out of town or across town this holiday season, wearing a seatbelt is your best defense against injury or death in a crash. During the busiest time of travel, prioritize your safety and buckle up. Every seat, every time. And remember, click it or ticket. It's the law. This message brought to you by the North Carolina High School Athletic Association and the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
If you recently lost health coverage due to a life change, healthcare.gov is here for you. Like it was there for Marcus when he lost his job, and Keisha when she turned 26 and lost her parents' insurance, and Elena when she went off Medicaid. There are many other ways to qualify. Visit healthcare.gov today to see if you're eligible to enroll. Limited time to enroll. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
AARP is working hard to make sure people in North Carolina are getting the most out of life. Whether it's helping you stay healthy, save more money, care for loved ones, or simply have some fun, AARP is making a difference in communities across the state. You have a wise friend and fierce defender with AARP. Learn more about progress being made for older adults in the state by listening to AARP Without Limits. You can find the latest episodes of AARP Without Limits wherever you listen to your podcasts.
This is Adam Gold.
80-second mark, I screamed in the booth. I screamed in the booth. Why the heck is he still on the ice?
Did you say it in Finnish?
I should have.
Yes.
No, he wouldn't. He curses in English.
He does.
All right, 2 seconds later, he scored.
Yes.
And I went, oh, that's why. That's why.
The Adam Gold Show.
It's the Adam Gold Show. I am Adam Gold. Before we stretch and place bets, we're going to talk to David Teel from the Newport News Daily Press in just a little bit. And Teal's been covering the ACC forever. And I just thought it was interesting that Leonard Hamilton announced his retirement. The Florida State's basketball coach announced his retirement. I think he's 76 at the end of the season. And it strikes me that this is the classy way that you're supposed to do this. There's no mention, I'm just reading the quote in the story. There's no mention of hating the players or the system or this isn't what I signed up for. There's only gratitude. I'm sure the way of the world for Leonard Hamilton, who's been a head college basketball coach legitimately for almost 40 years. He was named head coach at Oklahoma State in 1986. He was an assistant for about, 15 to 20 years before then. Yeah, I think he had 1 year as the basketball head coach of the Washington Wizards when Michael Jordan had bought the team. Jordan hired Leonard Hamilton. He only lasted 1 year, and then he went and became the head coach at Florida State after that. Hamilton is one of those borderline Hall of Fame basketball coaches. Never got to a Final Four, obviously never won a national championship, blah, blah, blah. But, man, he created something really good at Florida State. But, anyway, my larger point is that this year, just in the ACC, we saw Tony Bennett leave right before the start of the season. Virginia's no good. And we saw Jim Larrañaga quit in December. Flat out quit in December. and blaming, less so with Tony, absolutely with Larinaga, blaming the system for why it's taken the joy out of coaching. I mean, completely roll my eyes at that. Hamilton said none of that. I don't think he's at a press conference, but he said none of that in a statement, and I think that is to be celebrated. Here's a guy that understood that he had a position of leadership, and he was lucky to be able to be good enough to do it, and then to do it with class. A native of Gastonia, North Carolina as well, Leonard Hamilton. I wish him nothing but the best in retirement. He is a super, super guy. All right, let's stretch.
Okay, so I saw some articles about Super Bowl things, and I thought, okay, this is going to be interesting because the first one, top 10 cities for NFL fans, and this is not how awesome
top
the NFL.
Top 10 cities for NFL fans.
Right, not considering how awesome the fans are, but just basically, I guess, better suited for fans or ones that they like the most.
Fans, NFL fans, where they live.
Right.
Right. No, it has nothing to do with your team.
Right. Well, Philly didn't make the cut anyway.
Oh, bummer.
Regardless, because Wallet Hub looked at a few things. They filtered out the ticket prices, the fan engagement, and social media followers. Okay. That's the metrics we're using.
Yes.
Philadelphia was 22nd. But the best NFL city from this metric system, Pittsburgh.
Okay, that makes sense.
I guess so, as long as it's not freezing, because I don't know if people really want to. It's fun to watch the snow football in your warm living room versus in there. So, yeah, despite them not being at a Super Bowl since 2011, they haven't won one since 2009, but they also tied the Patriots with the most titles at 6, so that did help with everything. But the Eagles, let's see here. They've only won one since 2018, but their second Super Bowl appearance in 3 years is happening. Meanwhile, Kansas City Chiefs is back for the 5th time in 6 years, and they weren't ranked very high either. They were ranked 5th. So from the top 10, we've got Pittsburgh as the best, then Dallas.
Dallas?
Right? I don't know. I didn't make this
All
up.
Right.
Green Bay, Boston, Kansas City, San Francisco, New York, but they didn't specify. Now, I know they share a spot, but maybe it might make a difference if we're talking about which team. Maybe no, it wouldn't make a difference. New Orleans, Los Angeles, and then Minneapolis. So there you go.
All right.
And I thought this was interesting because when they looked at college football, it didn't change. The top 5 didn't change at all when it came to rankings. So, but Philly did jump to 11th. So that helped.
Usually
helped.
When we have these types of surveys, polls, whatever, rankings, when it comes to college sports, Louisville is almost always
big time.
If not first, right there. And also Greensboro. Very, very high in all of those. College sports in the state of North Carolina, goes without saying.
Yeah.
Pretty important.
Yeah. Well, I know Greensboro misses the ACC tournament.
They do.
So that's a thing.
I've heard about it.
Time or two. And I thought this was really fascinating. So when it comes to money and how much some players are going to be making in the Super Bowl, everybody gets a bonus. Everyone in the Super Bowl game gets a bonus. But just how much of a bonus do they get? Well, depends on who you are because it's different for folks. So Philadelphia Eagles running back Saquon Barkley will get $500,000 from his team if he leads them to the Super Bowl Lombardi Trophy. He's already earned $1 million in incentives this year, apparently, including $250,000 just for winning the NFC Championship. So he's loaded, full of money. So there's that. Also, Jalen Hurts. Interesting because Patrick Mahomes and Jalen Hurts get paid differently. Jalen Hurts will earn $500,000 per year salary bump if Philly wins. Now Patrick Mahomes will get he will get $1.5 million in a salary bump if the Chiefs make a three-peat. So that's a little bit of a difference.
In handy. I've heard that Mahomes and his wife are considering putting an addition on the garage. So it'll come in handy, that $1.5 million in salary bump.
Mm-hmm. Well, they have talked about bringing a women's basketball team out there. So
yes, they are.
Maybe they could use it for that. Who knows? But the all the winners will get is $164,000. So that was last year's, but this year they'll get a bump because it'll be $171,000. So you know what? Whether you win or lose, you get something, because the losing team, they also get $96,000 if they just show up. So there you go. You win or lose, you still get almost $100,000 for being in the Super Bowl.
That used to matter.
Yeah.
Now it still matters to about half of each roster. It really matters because about half of the players who are going to play in the game make pretty close to the league minimum. That's just the reality of the NFL.
Yeah.
It matters
nice
to a lot of those guys.
It's a nice little bump, but that's if you're Patrick Mahomes, you really want the three-peat. That's for sure. But we'll see what your Super Bowl bet is for
Place
today.
your bets. Place your bets. Here we are. I bet you slice into the woods $100.
Gambling is illegal at Bushwood, sir, and I never slide.
Okay, you can owe me. I owe you one.
I'll give you my Super Bowl prop in a minute. I didn't have anything going apparently yesterday. Because I picked a game that's a hockey game isn't going to be played until today.
Yes.
So
that's right.
You're up.
That's right. Well, this one's definitely played today, and it's going to be in Winnipeg. Our Carolina Hurricanes will be there. And hopefully the crud has made its way through the team. Who knows? But hopefully this worked for me last time against the Blackhawks. Give me Mikko Rantanen as an anytime goal scorer, plus 160.
All right. You know the Hurricanes are favored in Winnipeg tonight? The Jets are the best team in the National Hockey. They have the most points. They have the best home record. They're first in the league in goals scored. They're first in the league in least goals allowed. And the Hurricanes are favored in Winnipeg.
Do they realize we have the sickness?
That shocks me. Jackson Blake, who has been knocking on the door, anytime goal scorer plus 400.
Ooh, well, my next one, different game that is today. Minnesota Wild are going to be in Boston taking on the Bruins. I don't really know why because they're not at home. But give me the Minnesota Wild to win. They're underdogs, plus 115.
Carolina will be in Minnesota. A Hulu game on Thursday night, 7:30 start for that one.
They need to get it out now.
Right. 8 o'clock start for tonight's game. Jordan Stahl, who's got 18 career goals against Winnipeg, anytime goal scorer plus 480.
Ooh, and last but not least, the Edmonton Oilers are going to be in St. Louis taking on the Blues. Give me the Oilers to win this one, and I think it's going to be a high-scoring game, so I'll take the over 6.5. That's plus 200.
All right, your Super Bowl prop bet of the week, or of the day, not the week. 2 touchdowns or more. To score 2 touchdowns or more. Saquon Barkley is plus 270. Jalen Hurts is plus 550. I mean, you could take them both, and if one hits, you win. Either way, have fun.
Raleigh to Boone, Charlotte to Chapel Hill. Your Carolina is covered. Adam Gold on the North Carolina Sports Network.
Adam Gold here from my friends at FanDuel, and it is time for the Kick of Destiny version 3. Every Manning for himself, Sunday, 3 o'clock on the pregame show. And you choose whichever Manning you believe will make a field goal. And if you guess right, you're going to win a share of $10 million in bonus bets. Wow, $10 million in bonus bets. All you got to do is log on, and it's free. FanDuel.com/Adam Gold. FanDuel.com/Adam Gold. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Every Manning for himself. 21 and over and present in North Carolina. No purchase necessary. Bonuses issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 877-718-5543 or visit morethanagame.nc.gov.
Bonuses used to be everywhere. Boxes of cereal, a baker's dozen, airline upgrades, even without quadruple diamond platinum status. Life is better with the bonus. That's why the North Carolina Education Lottery is adding bonus chances to multiply your win on Multiply the Cash scratch-offs. More chances than ever to win over $140 million in total prizes. Because everything is better with a bonus. Must be 18 to play. Approximate overall odds of winning range from 1 in 3.31 to 4.86. Problem gambling helpline 877-718-5543.
Zero Res wants to give your home the love and attention it deserves. This month, get 3 rooms of carpets clean, starting at $109, and take $100 off your air duct cleaning. Book online anytime at ZeroResRaleigh.com.
Lanny went to college and racked up huge debt.
A little bit over $100,000.
For a degree he couldn't use? Now what?
I had a friend that went to my computer career.
They even helped him get hired immediately after graduation.
One of the things I love about IT is that you can work from anywhere you want.
You could become an IT pro in just months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI with zero experience at mycomputercareer.edu.
It worked for me, and I know it can work for you.
This is one student's experience. Individual results vary.
What could you do with an extra $75,000 right now, or even a couple $100,000? If you own a home, you can get that money in less than a week with Loan Pronto. Hey, it's Dennis Cox. Loan Pronto is the leader in quickly converting your home equity into cold, hard cash. You can pay off all your credit cards or start that home remodel. Loan Pronto has several easy options to let you access the cash from your home. There's virtually no paperwork, no cumbersome process, no junk fees, and often no appraisal. Listen, the average homeowner now has over $300,000 in equity. That's your money. Use it. One client got $150,000 out and paid off all their credit cards, 2 car loans, and a personal loan, cutting their monthly expenses by $1,500. You can get approved in as little as 1 day. So act now with no hard credit pull up front. LoanPronto.com, 919-381-1760. Get the money you need for anything. 919-381-1760, LoanPronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, NMLSconsumeraccess.org.
Spring forward with real unlimited data from Straight Talk this tax season and get a free Samsung Galaxy A16 5G or Moto G Power 5G 2024 with select plans. So you can stream games during Mad March hours, check the weather for April showers, and watch gardening videos about May flowers. Straight Talk, real unlimited data. Available at Walmart and StraightTalk.com. Offer valid through 4/15/25. Taxes and fees apply. Requires purchase of single line gold unlimited plan or higher. For network management practices, visit StraightTalk.com.
This hour of the Triangle Sports Leader is powered by Ritchie Law Firm, injury lawyers. Ritchie Law is on top of it. Go to RitchieLaw.com.
That's RitchieLaw.com.
They score! WCMC HD1 Holly Springs. Take us with you on the radio, Instagram, TikTok, Alexa, and YouTube. 99.9 The Fan, the Triangle Sports Leader.
This is an exciting thing and something we don't take for granted, but at the same time, this wasn't the end goal. And so for us, we have to use this to, continue to have momentum and not take anything for granted. Like historically, this game is so emotional. So the game before and game after, it can take a lot out of you. So I just want our guys to celebrate tonight and enjoy it. Don't get me wrong. I want them to celebrate and enjoy it, but then we have to move on right away and get ready for Syracuse.
This is the Adam Gold Show on the North Carolina Sports Network.
It's the Adam Gold Show. That was John Shire. You may know him better as Duke's basketball coach. Duke will be at Syracuse tomorrow night. Carolina's off for the balance of the week until they host Pitt on Saturday in what probably feels like a must-win game for them. If you go by the popular bracketologist, and this is the Adam Gold Show, we're here every day. We're live on YouTube, youtube.com/Adam Gold, or Adam Gold Show, youtube.com/999 The Fan. Either way, you get to us. Subscribe, share, like, whatever you have to do. Victoria's here. It probably feels like a must-win for Carolina based on the popular bracketologists, the Joe Lenardis, the Jerry Palms, the Mike DeCourcys. I know Field of 68, our friend Jeff Goodman has made that into a college basketball staple for a lot of people, and they've all got brackets that you can go and view, and half of them still have North Carolina in the field. Half don't, obviously. If half do, half don't. Which is kind of hard to believe based on being, 13-10. 6-5 in the league. It's just hard to process. Man, they're still in. It kind of demonstrates what the middle, the gooey center of college basketball is. It's not as good as it's been in the past. There's a lot of, I think we're going to see a record set by the SEC. I think they could have, they have 16 teams. I wouldn't be surprised if 12 made it to the tournament. They have that many good basketball teams. Big Ten's going to put a lot of teams in. The Big 12 is going to put a lot of teams in. The ACC right now, consensus is 3 teams in plus 1 into the first 4. Duke, Louisville, Clemson in. Pitt right now, first 4. Maybe Carolina's first 4 as well. But right now I see half of the first 4 teams everybody had in. Carolina, half of them had them in, half of them had them out. So it kind of feels like a must-win against Pitt on Saturday. All right, Carolina play. The Hurricanes play tonight. Hurricanes are in Winnipeg. It will be Pyotr Kochetkov. They called up Scott Morrow. We're going to talk about that with Tripp Tracy coming up in just a few minutes. Morrow worked as a 7th defenseman, so it doesn't look as though he's going to play tonight. Carolina looks to be fully operational. I don't know if there's any lingering sickness still permeating the dressing room, but it doesn't look like Morrow is going to draw in tonight. But we'll talk about that in a bigger picture with Tripp Tracy coming up in about 10 minutes. Right now, Wall of Sound.
The Wall of Sound is a function of this studio. There's no doubt about it.
All right, we'll start with the state of the NFL as the commissioner, Roger Goodell, sees it. So I'm going to work through this way. There are bigger picture issues for the NFL, and then there are, maybe more minutia things that Goodell talked about. One of the bigger picture things he discussed was what's going to happen in the future, but isn't going to happen now, it appears, and that is expanding the regular season to 18 games.
Concussions are at a historically low level this year. We think that's a large result of the efforts that are being made, one, to improve equipment, but also the changes we make in the rules of the game, and also the way we train our players. So I think all of those are factors in how do we look at the offseason and how do we look at that with our partners, the players, and try to continue to make advancements in this case. And if we do, 18-2 might be a possibility, because we know that fans, I think, love football. They want more football, but we have to be incredibly sensitive and smart about the balance and how we deal with that. And I think that's something that I think we're all interested in focusing on, but it hasn't begun yet.
All right. Clearly, fans love football. And we're not even arguing that. Going to be more than 100,000 people. I'm sorry. More than 100, definitely more than 100,000. That's not incorrect. More than 100 million people are going to tune into the Super Bowl. There's not a debate as to whether or not fans love football and that fans want more football. Well, then why don't we expand the season to 40 games? Why don't we just do that and give them football like 8 months in a row? We'll play football from December. No, not December. We'll start in August, and we'll play like all the way through May. Why don't we do that?
We'll have like a hockey or basketball schedule.
I don't have to remind people I've become a big soccer fan. So they start in August, the middle of August, and the last match week in the Premier League is the end of May. We should do that for the NFL. They play 38 matches, 38 league matches. That doesn't even count all the other stuff. So why don't we go to 40? No, we'll be sensible here. Let's go to 32 So you can play, well, let's see if we add this up. There's 32 teams in the league. You play 6 games against your own division because there's 4 teams in your division. There's 28 other teams. And then play everybody once. 34. We'll go to 34 games in the regular season, but we'll also add cup competitions like interwoven to do it just like that. Because fans love football. That can't be your determining factor as to whether or not you go to 18 games or 20 or whatever it is down the road. It has to be, is it going to kill your product like the players, not damage the sport? Is it going to kill the people who play it? By the way, without slamming and I've just slammed the idea, just to backtrack to the beginning of what he said, the NFL is to be commended. Concussions are down. Considerably down. And they should get credit for that. Whether it's helmet technology, the rules changes, and there are a lot of different rules changes. The way concussions are treated, look, players are still going to try to get away with not reporting concussions. It's just that's a fact of life in the NFL. So, do you remember the Buffalo defensive back? I'm forgetting his name now. I think it was number 43 or 47. 47, I believe. Buffalo's cornerback. They talked about, oh, man, he was in concussion protocol all week. They were excited to get him back. They're not going to win this game without him. I don't know if it was first series. It might have been first series. Leaves the game with a concussion.
Right.
If you watch the play, there is 0 chance you should have received a concussion on that play, which leads me to believe, how did he clear protocol?
Mm-hmm. It's already there. The problem was already there.
So players are always going to try and play, and frankly, teams are going to look the other way when they do. Just, that's the nature of the beast. But we got to protect the players. All right, this will end up being a very small wall of sound. All right, Travis Kelce last night at Super Bowl's opening night. This will be his 5th Super Bowl in, I guess, a 7-year span. Right? What about the future?
Where will I be in 3 years? Oh man, I don't know. Hopefully, still playing football. I love doing this. I love coming into work every day, and I feel like I still got a lot of good football left in me. But we'll see what happens. I know I've been setting myself up for other opportunities in my life, and that's always been the goal. Knowing that football only lasts for so long, you got to find a way to get into another career, into another profession, and I've been doing that in my off seasons. But for the most part, I plan on being a Kansas City Chief and playing football.
Mr. Personality is going to work in media for the rest of it, whenever he's done, just like his brother. Yeah, I mean, it's always more fun when you're in the Super Bowl every year.
That helps.
I mean, it doesn't suck.
Yeah, it's a little more motivation.
The football life of Travis Kelce is absolutely perfect.
Mahomes is your quarterback. Andy Reid your coach. Like, your girlfriend's Taylor Swift. I mean, why not? Why not?
When is he going to make an honest woman out of her?
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm surprised that's not one of your prop bets for the Super Bowl, because hasn't it been one now every single time?
Will Kelce propose?
Will this be the one that he proposes?
To Taylor Swift. I'll have to find out if that is even available. You'd have to do one of the offshore books for that.
Yes.
All right. Scott Morrow, one of Carolina's top prospects, a defenseman, is with the team in Winnipeg. Doesn't look like he's going to play today. We will talk about his appearance and more with Tripp Tracy next.
Raleigh to Boone, Charlotte to Chapel Hill. Your Carolina is covered. Adam Gold on the North Carolina Sports Network.
Tonight's forecast calls for Hurricanes hockey.
Here's Aho with a chance, and he scores! And Sebastian Aho has tied it at 2.
Storm Watch with Adam Gold at 7:30. Puck drop at 8.
He scores! Jackson Blake gets the stick to it, and Carolina scores on the power play to take a 3-2 lead.
On HD1, your exclusive home for the Carolina Hurricanes. 99.9 The Fan.
Hi, it's Adam Gold, and you should have a friend like I have a friend in Gordon Miller. He is the man who invented the no closing cost mortgage in 1987, brought it to the Triangle in 1996. I met him about 3 years later. We have been famous friends ever since, and it has nothing to do with the fact that he has saved me about $50,000 in closing costs over the quarter of a century that we have been buddies. Miller Lending, home of the original no closing cost mortgage, that's where you go. You don't pay closing costs. You save yourself thousands. You also give yourself the freedom to refinance, again, free of charge, when the rates come down. I've refied 8 times with Miller Lending. I've purchased 3 homes using Miller Lending as my lender. But the refi is where you save the money and you lower your monthly payment. Miller Lending on Kildare Farm Road in Cary. They are an equal housing lender. NMLS ID 250-2146.
It's bow time.
A leg and thigh dinner from Bojangles for just $5.99.
Leg and thigh dinner from Bojangles for just $5.99.
So crispy.
So crispy.
And juicy.
And juicy.
So much flavor.
So much.
Stop it. What are you doing?
What, you expect me to get this delicious deal and not say anything?
You're unbelievable.
You're unbelievable. With a boldly seasoned leg and thigh, choice of fixin', a biscuit, and legendary iced tea, it's a deal so good it's worth repeating. So eat and repeat while it lasts. It's bow time.
It's bow time. Dine in, drive through, or tap your favorite delivery app and have Bojangles come to you. Satisfy your craving for flavor right now with Bojangles 2-piece dinner. 2 pieces of Bojangles dark meat chicken, your choice of fixin', a biscuit, and iced tea for just $5.99. That's right, just $5.99 for limited time at participating Bojangles. What are you waiting for? When you're hungry, it's always bow time.
This is Super Bowl 59. Get in on the action at DraftKings Sportsbook, an official sports betting partner of Super Bowl 59. Scoring touchdowns? It's key to hoisting the Lombardi Trophy, and you can score big by betting on them at DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 place to bet touchdowns. Ready to place your first bet? Try betting on something simple, like a player to score 6. Go to the DraftKings Sportsbook app and make your pick. New DraftKings customers can bet $5 to get $200 in bonus bets instantly. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app and use code TIMD. That's code TIMD for new customers to get $200 in bonus bets instantly when you bet just $5. Only on DraftKings, the crown is yours. Gambling problem? Call 877-185-543 or visit morethanagame.nc.gov. 21 plus, North Carolina only. Eligibility restrictions apply. Bonus bets expire 168 hours after issuance. For additional terms and responsible gaming resources, see dkng.co/audio.
Hey, I got you something.
What's this?
Just a little Galentine's gift from JTV.
Do you mean jewelry television? I love their jewelry. They have the
New customers get $25 off their first purchase of $75 or more. Visit jtv.com/romance.
Yeah, their artisan collections? Gorgeous.
Are you going to open your gift?
Oh, yeah. It's the pearl bracelet.
New customers receive $25 off their first purchase of $75 or more. Visit jtv.com/romance.
This is Adam Gold.
Did you see what Duke is paying the quarterback that they pulled out of the portal from Tulane?
Oh, no.
Oh, yeah. 2-year deal, $4 million per.
Oh, wow.
Per. So.
Do they want a quarterback named Victoria?
The Adam Gold Show.
It's the Adam Gold Show. I am Adam Gold. Victoria on the 1s and 2s. Carolina Hurricanes are in Winnipeg tonight. 3 more games before the 4 Nations tournament. Before everybody scatters. 2 weeks with no NHL hockey. We'll have games. We will have Finland v. Sweden v. U.S. v. Canada. We'll have all of those games over the course of basically a little bit more than a week. I think it's going to take about 10 days to play all of it. And a lot of players will just get a break. And then when the tournament is over, the guys who are at that tournament will get a couple of days to recharge their batteries before the sprint to the finish line of the season, the last, say, 25 or so games of the season. Carolina looking to get back on track after they lost their last game at home against Los Angeles. And back behind the microphone, Tripp Tracy, who joins us from Winnipeg. Before we get into this, I just want you to know that I found it hysterical, but at the same time very telling, that when FanDuel Sportsnet put up their injuries and scratches on Saturday night, you were listed. And I think that says the impact that you have on all of it. I asked Rod about it. Rod was not impressed.
Well, he's got to maintain his hardened character. He certainly reached out offline on Saturday once he knew that my fever was elevated, to show his softer side. But, it was a grind. And, running through, the dressing room, hopefully that's over. Knock on any wooden device. But the game Thursday, I could feel it. I could feel it during the game, and I knew Friday was going to be a big day, and Friday was a big day, the March of the Fever. And, the biggest plus that I can mention, I hate missing games.
I know.
But I wanted to do my part to try to contain this thing as much as possible. And, everybody's dealing with it, but with that fever Friday and Saturday, finally broke about midnight Saturday night. I love my dog Frank, but I couldn't even let him outside for a long stretch of time, and I give him a lot of credit that somehow he avoided going to the laboratory during that long stretch of time. So
he had 4 legs. He had each pair of legs crossed for a little bit more than a day. All right, let me dig into the fact that the Hurricanes called up Scott Morrow. It was named an AHL All-Star. He's going to miss the All-Star game as a result. Ryan Suzuki went back to the Chicago Wolves and played in the AHL All-Star game. So Scott Morrow was called up, which took him out of that All-Star game. It doesn't look like he's going to draw in tonight, but I can't imagine that they brought Scott Morrow up here to sit, that they're at least going to play him some. Rod says he's loved everything he has seen about him, but what are your thoughts on one of Carolina's top prospects, maybe the top prospect in North America? What do you think about him showing up now?
Well, he has done everything that you could possibly ask of him, which was the best thing for him, of playing heavy minutes and growing in the American Hockey League. And watching a ton of his games this year, AG, his confidence, the ability to use his feet at both ends of the rink, I've seen it grow month by month. And, so he has been exactly the type of vehicle that, not that he would have loved it, but that the American Hockey League, the tool that it should be. And he's earned this opportunity. My intuition, there was no tell from Rod after the morning skate, but my intuition is that he may play.
Okay.
If you played 7 defensemen, Juha Jaska, great to see him skating, but, he's coming off of that bug himself, that rolling 7 defensemen would get Morrow right in. It creates a challenge of keeping everybody involved, but then it gives you an opportunity to double shift some guys, that could be invaluable against the Winnipeg Jets and create a possible matchup situation on the road. That may or may not happen. Rod may go with the standard allotment of 12 and 6, but there was no tell this morning, but my intuition is it wouldn't surprise me one bit. And Morrow is in a position to, if he does play, whether it be tonight or moving forward that, especially when you played the type of minutes on a consistent basis, that he's gotten better by the game, he's gotten better by the week, he's gotten better by the month, that this should be a player that is ready for the opportunity to seize it.
Well, again, named an AHL All-Star because you're playing against, grown men in that league. That's a men's league, and it is a very good proving ground for what comes next. Maybe more so with defensemen than it is with anything else because of, again, you are playing against a lot of times established veterans who can play at that level, and it's a physical game. So that would speak well. And if not that we're going to look forward this year, but looking forward next year, it certainly creates, I guess the idea that Morrow could be definitely in your mix or should be in your mix next season when there are going to be a lot of questions that they have to answer about the blue line because they've got 4 guys under contract next year. There are 2 spots. We know one of them is going to Alexander Nikishin, assuming you can sign him, but I can't imagine that they won't sign him. And the other one is up in the air. If that's Scott Morrow, it really does, kind of answer a lot of questions. It gives you 6 guys signed, so finding out if he can play now is important, except that I don't think now is the time to see what he's got. They must think he can help them now.
Truthfully, watching all of his games in Chicago, I think he can. I genuinely do. I had a conversation, with him at the end of the morning skate, and he's always been a very confident young pro. But I saw an ease about him that I hadn't seen in the past. There was no bitterness whatsoever, none, about spending the year to this point in the American Hockey League, because I agree with you, even certainly compared to forwards, but I would even argue compared to goaltenders that for a defenseman, especially a defenseman that you have such high hopes for in the future of what he can potentially mean to your blue line, it takes the longest. And this was my wish right from the beginning of training camp and into the preseason, and he was hurt. That probably made that decision easier for Carolina, hurt for a good percentage of training camp and then the preseason. But you look at guys that have gone on to be Norris Trophy winners, and a good number of them. I think about Roman Josi, just he hit the mark of playing the most games in Nashville Predators history last night against Ottawa. He spent time in the American Hockey League. So this was, when I looked at Carolina's blue line, this was my wish all along because I knew it would be better for the long-term growth of Scott Morrow. But watching his games as I do, if he's in the lineup as soon as tonight, I think he can make a difference now.
All right, let's move on to somebody who is making a difference right now. He's a rookie, Jackson Blake. And whether it's analytically speaking or just listening to the head coach after Saturday's game, Aho, Rantanen, and Blake was Carolina's best line. They should have scored several times. There were plenty of opportunities to score. They didn't get on the score sheet. And Rod said that Blake was probably the most impactful player on that line. There's still an undercurrent that people don't buy it, but what have you seen from Blake the last several games? I mean, nobody thought he'd been playing with Aho and Mikko Rantanen at the start of the season, but here he is.
Consistency in driving whatever line that he's been on, and most recently, with Sebastian Aho, Mikko Rantanen. Of course, you didn't have Aho in that game against Chicago on Thursday. Very few hiccups on the defensive side of the puck. And you look Saturday against the Kings, that if they put forth that type of offensive zone establishment, those types of looks at the net, if they stick with it, they're going to get rewarded. Of the 3 guys, they were all good, but if I had to pick one driver of the line, it was Jackson Blake. He drove it. And you think if he had cashed on at least a percentage of the chances that he's gotten, his numbers would really jump off the page. So he's earned where he's at right now. Why change that? And then the other piece that I'll mention, AG, if Rod goes with the restructured power play groupings that he hadn't practiced yesterday and then this morning, you've changed the way you look at the power play group, your first group, from the standpoint that now you potentially would have three righties, Jarvis, Blake, and Burns, and then just the two lefties in Rantanen and Aho. And what I like about it, and I don't see how you're winning these two games in very, very difficult Western Conference locales, Winnipeg tonight and Minnesota on Thursday, if your power play doesn't get going ASAP, is when you have three righties on one unit, it really helps to isolate and therefore trigger your shooters on the left side, and specifically, Rantanen and Aho. So this is very intriguing, not only just for Blake at even strength, does that line stick with it and get rewarded after they were their best against Los Angeles, but if this power play group, this new power play group, is the one that Rod fields tonight, does it sort of allow the two lefties in Rantanen and Aho to jump out of the gate and get back going on the man advantage that obviously has had an extremely tough 2025.
It's incredible. They've since New Year's Eve, they have 2 power play goals in, I think, 44 opportunities. It has been a wasteland. Meanwhile, Winnipeg has the number 1 power play in the sport. It's best on best. It's the top power play against the top penalty killing unit. We can't do tail of the tape for that, but that's got to be intriguing in and of itself.
It's incredibly intriguing. The first thing is, do not take any unnecessary penalties. Now, this Carolina penalty kill has amazed me this year from the on many levels. But one of the levels is that if you take 3 or 4 penalties within a game, historically, my entire time being a broadcaster, power plays adjust and they get better as they have repetitive chances.
Yeah.
Carolina's kill this year has seemingly flipped that script and made adjustments and gotten better against the team's power play as the game has gone along. I don't want to see that tonight because Winnipeg's power play can hurt you in every area of the 5 guys that they put on the ice. The other part of the penalty kill that has been extraordinary to me, on most nights, the penalty kill is creating more offense than an opposing power play.
Yes.
I don't, if they're able to do that against what Winnipeg has in their top-ranked power play, I'll just tip my cap and be thrilled and giddy about it. But the part of it that will be intriguing, AG, is does Carolina apply the same amount of pressure that they typically do? Or based on the juggernaut of a Jets man advantage, do they pick their spots a little bit more? That'll be something that I'll be watching in real time.
I'm with you on that. Winnipeg, by the way, is also 6 for their last 12. One thing I did notice was that in Winnipeg Jets games, not a lot of penalties called. They're middle of the pack in power play chances for them, and they are near the bottom in terms of power play chances allowed. So maybe we're going to have a mostly 5-on-5 game, which I guess Carolina would like, and I'm sure Winnipeg would like as well. I'm glad you're back, Tripp, and we'll talk to you on Thursday from Minnesota. We'll do it live on Thursday for the pregame show since it's a Hulu game.
AG, love to hear your vocals after a real grind of a flu bug and fever. And by the way, you always knowing the statistics like you do, man, that would be even more of a reason if you think it's going to go 5-on-5 for the most part. That would lend more credence to playing 7 defense, so then you could double shift some of your best stars and create a favorable matchup on the road.
That would absolutely. I had not thought of that. That's why we talked to you. I'll talk to you Thursday. Be well. Tea, lemon, honey, and that's enough.
Thanks, AG. The best thing about it wasn't fun during the process, is my 6-pack ain't ever coming back. But, I'll tell you, go through that grind. You certainly lose some of your body composition.
You'll look great in that suit tonight, Tripp. I'll talk to you later.
Yeah.
He will look fabulous. All right, when we come back, David Teel from the Newport News Daily Press on the retirement of Leonard Hamilton and big picture stuff that came out of Saturday, but also the ACC and ESPN are continuing their marriage of convenience. Next.
Going beyond the box scores. Adam Gold on the North Carolina Sports Network.
The North Carolina Department of Health and Human Services is looking for people age 21 or older to volunteer in long-term care facilities. Community Advisory Committee volunteers help residents and their families advocate for the needs of individuals living in long-term care facilities, such as nursing homes, assisted living facilities, and family care homes. Volunteers must complete orientation and training to become designated and certified representatives of the Long-Term Care Ombudsman Program. Visit ncdhhs.gov/aging to find your county's ombudsman.
It's back, the FanDuel Kick of Destiny, and this time it's every Manning for himself. This Super Bowl, two legends will take the field in a sudden death field goal showdown. Peyton versus Eli, live from New Orleans, one kick to claim ultimate family bragging rights. Who's going to rise to the moment? Pick your winner now in the FanDuel app, and if you back the right brother, you will earn a share of $10 million in bonus bets. The FanDuel Kick of Destiny. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com/AGS and bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. FanDuel.com/AGS. Do it now. 21 and over and present in North Carolina. No purchase necessary. Bonuses issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets that expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. Void where prohibited. See terms at sportsbook.fanduel.com. Gambling problem? Call 877-718-5543 or visit morethanagame.nc.gov.
I'm Faith. I work as an American Sign Language interpreter, and I just graduated from my bachelor's program. I texted 988 because at the moment where I needed help, I realized that I didn't have access to English at the moment. Sometimes speaking gets hard for me, and they just helped me calm down, and then I was able to find a friend. It's free, and you can get in touch with people who are trained to help through all sorts of crises.
Call, text, or chat 988-24/7.
Did you know that since you have public power, your electricity is operated and controlled by people in your community, not by a for-profit, investor-owned company? These local folks are directly accountable to you. They don't answer to shareholders. They make decisions for the good of your community. What's more, your public power provider invests in your community, providing jobs and supporting your local economy. Local people working together to meet local needs. That's public power. Learn more at electricities.com.
As fall championships begin, the Governor's Highway Safety Program would like to remind you to buckle your seatbelt when traveling home from today's events. Whether you're driving out of town or across town this holiday season, wearing a seatbelt is your best defense against injury or death in a crash. During the busiest time of travel, prioritize your safety and buckle up. Every seat, every time. And remember, click it or ticket, it's the law. This message brought to you by the North Carolina High School Athletic Association and the Governor's Highway Safety Program.
If you need health coverage due to a life change, healthcare.gov is here for you. Like it was there for Terrence and Jody when they got married, and Sophia when she had a baby, and Gary when he moved and needed new insurance. There are many other ways to qualify. Visit healthcare.gov today to see if you're eligible to enroll. Limited time to enroll. Paid for by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services.
AARP is working hard to make sure people in North Carolina are getting the most out of life. Whether it's helping you stay healthy, save more money, care for loved ones, or simply have some fun, AARP is making a difference in communities across the state. You have a wise friend and fierce defender with AARP. Learn more about progress being made for older adults in the state by listening to AARP Without Limits. You can find the latest episodes of AARP Without Limits wherever you listen to your podcasts.
This is Adam Gold.
Home runs are homers, not dingers, not jacks, not bombs. Can I use tater?
I know. Can we say going yard?
Oh, yes.
Right?
If we can't exaggerate, if we can't use colorful, flowery metaphors and descriptions, why are we here?
The Adam Gold Show.
I saw on television today a question as to whether or not Saquon Barkley was the greatest free agent signing in NFL history. I'm not even going to get into that. I know the greatest free agent signing in media history. David Teel, back to the Newport News Daily Press, and he joins us on the Adam Gold Show, the Dean of ACC Reporting. How are you, sir?
I'm doing great. How about you, man?
I'm doing very well. There's a lot of things I want to talk about, but I heard yesterday Hubert Davis say that, all right, I'm going to hire a GM and all the other things that, frankly, North Carolina has been behind the eight ball on for the last several years. I guess there was an admission that the Carolina way, whatever that is, doesn't cut it anymore. Obviously, this is all fallout from what happened on Saturday night at Cameron Indoor Stadium. Do you think that was a bigger picture? The final score, was that indicative of everything else, as well as the fact that Duke is just right now a wagon?
Yeah, I think it was, Adam, on several levels. Number one, I heard Hubert's remark yesterday as well, and my question would be, does the Carolina way that no longer works include a staff of all Carolina people? Mm-hmm. And does that need to change? I would suspect that the answer for most of us is yes.
Right.
Much as John Shire has moved away from the Duke fam when it comes to his staff.
Well, he sort of has. Like the Jay Lucas thing, definitely, right? The first hire that he made before, I know he was always going to retain Chris Carrawell because he was the one who stood up in the team meeting and said, hey, Coach, we've got the next guy right here. And he pointed to John. But the first hire they made was Rachel Baker, the GM. Then they brought in Jay Lucas to basically be their defensive coordinator, I guess, from Kentucky. But it is true that he is not, you can be outside the Duke family and still get hired, although there's a whole bunch of Dukies all over that bench in polos.
Yes. And back to Carolina, the thing that is most striking to me, because I'm old, and you're no
I'm old too.
Chicken.
You can call me old. That's fine.
No young chicken either. I mean, we grew up watching Carolina big guys dominate this league season after season and watching the Tar Heels bludgeon opponents on the glass.
Yeah.
And now you watch them, and I'm like, how did Hubert Davis let this happen? How could they have not, either through a high school signing or a portal acquisition, be so bereft of talented bigs? That's on them. If that entails, getting a GM or having alums pony up more money for athlete compensation, I refuse to call it NIL because it's not.
Right.
Then that's what you have to do, because that's what others are doing in your orbit. And, oh, by the way, in your neighborhood.
Yeah, it's interesting. Duke's sort of been operating as a pro program for a long time, right? I mean, going back to Krzyzewski, this is before athlete compensation. I'll use your term because it is accurate. Even before that, Duke had figured out a way to essentially operate as though it were the 31st NBA team, which they kind of are when you look at how many Blue Devils are not only playing in the NBA, but killing it in the NBA. So they're ahead of the game with regards to that.
Yes, and and Coach K, he essentially worked in the NBA when he was coaching the national team.
Yeah.
And therefore had access to all the USA basketball stuff, and that helped with recruiting. And yes, they absolutely operated as an NBA-type franchise. And if you listen to John Shire when he talks about the state of college basketball, he wants the game to be more like the NBA game. Yeah. He wants to go to quarters. He wants to be able to advance the ball in late timeouts to half court. And he just thinks that the college game needs to be more like the NBA game.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. I know that there are a lot of people who love college basketball that don't want advancing the ball to midcourt after a timeout. I understand. Like, we've seen some, like the Caleb Love shot at the end of the game when Arizona tied. Was it? I guess it was Iowa State or whatever the game was. That was a phenomenal play. That's not. You don't have that if we advance the ball. I get it. I do think that the two games should mirror each other. Hey, Adam Silver, a Dookie, by the way, wants the NBA to go back to 10-minute quarters, which I don't think will ever happen. I don't think they're taking 8 minutes out of a pro game, but I understand what Adam Silver's talking about because every other basketball, organized basketball from the college level up, plays 40-minute games. Only the NBA plays 48-minute games. Let me the reason I contacted you was because of Leonard Hamilton announcing his retirement. And I understand that this might hit a little bit close to home for you, but with two other recent retirings in ACC basketball, Tony Bennett and Jim Larinaga, it jumped out to me that Leonard Hamilton, I think, did it the right way in that I'm coaching to the end of the season, and there was no mention that the game has changed underneath him, that the economic model had changed underneath him. He was just appreciative, and he's being sued, by the way, by 6 players, former players, for a broken NIL promise. I'm not getting into the details of that, but whatever. But he would have reason to say that the system isn't what I want. But I loved everything about Leonard Hamilton. And just your thoughts on him going out.
Well, all he's done, Adam, is issue a statement. When he meets the media for the first time,
True.
I believe, will be tonight after the Notre Dame game, which is an odd rollout for his retirement. But whether he gets into the state of compensation and the entire enterprise, I think is TBA. But yes,
right.
to work the rest of the season, I think is a credit to him. He has been a credit to the game on so many levels, and what he did at Florida State is remarkable.
Yep.
They didn't just go to 4 consecutive NCAA tournaments. They advanced in 4 consecutive NCAA tournaments back in the late teens.
Yeah.
And then 2021. And it would have been 5 if not for COVID.
Yep.
In 2020 when they won the ACC regular season. I mean, he did this at Florida freaking State. And it's almost like, Larinaga taking Miami and George Mason to the Final Four. This is Hall of Fame type credentials. And he did it with such class. And then you have the layer of the racism that he faced early on in his career.
Yep.
He was the first black assistant in the SEC, and not just in the SEC. It was at Kentucky.
Yeah, for a long time.
And yes, and everything about him. He's a singer, and he loves his gospel music. And I just have always found him to be a delightful gentleman and a hell of a basketball coach.
He is a
and
great.
I think the way Florida State has treated him amid this lawsuit, which they are as responsible for as he is shameful. The way they have hung him out to dry.
Well, Florida State's administration is busy with other things, although maybe not anymore. As I transition to our final topic, David Teel.
Very clever.
Thank you very much. Now, the lawsuits might go away. They're suing the Atlantic Coast Conference because the ACC and ESPN have decided they're going to keep the marriage together until 2036. I never for a second thought ESPN would opt out because the ACC network makes them money, and ESPN is not about to give away money because times are tough even for the worldwide leader. But what do you think the fallout or the impact is of ESPN's continuing the deal through 2036, specific to the uneven model of distribution of revenue that the ACC is going to negotiate with the rest of the league?
That's the great unknown here, Adam, is Florida State and to a lesser degree Clemson have been clamoring for a greater share of revenue that reflects their brand power and their football television rating.
Right.
How exactly do you measure that? Is it a year-by-year type of metric? Is it historical? So many unanswered questions there. And whereas with the Success Initiative, which is another layer of this, we have a pretty darn good idea of how much money you can earn, upwards of $25 million if you take it all the way to the national championship in football. But the brand thing just seems to me to be so much more vague and clearly not yet finalized or finished negotiated. It will be, and we won't really know the future tax return.
Right.
And what are the disparities, distributions between, say, Boston College and Clemson?
And the interesting thing about this, David, is that, I know it's going to seem unfair to the BCs of the world, or to the, to the Syracuses of the world, to the Pitts of the world. To Wake Forest. It's going to seem unfair to them. But it's very possible, and I don't think Jim Phillips will phrase it just like this. He could say, if you don't like it, you're free to go. And where are they going to go to earn the money that they will earn as a result of this? Remember, in the Big East, where it was not an even distribution of revenue, those schools saw the opportunity to get a lot more money by coming here. So, it can be a very difficult conversation, but maybe it's one that has to happen.
Yeah, and I think the folks at the schools we just mentioned, Adam, get that. And that's why I think eventually they will come to some type of agreement on the brand power pool of money, and that these lawsuits will go away. And Florida State will be able to raise its arms and declare victory and take a lap for the donors and the board of trustees.
Yeah.
But whether it's that big a deal remains to be seen.
David Teel on Twitter. Are you on Blue Sky yet?
I have an account, Adam, and I confess to not having really navigated around.
It's very similar. If I can do it, then a caveman could do it. And I'm not calling you a caveman, David Teel. @by David Teel on Twitter. Appreciate your time, sir. I'm sure I will see you somewhere soon, depending on my hockey schedule. Thank you very much for the time.
My pleasure, Adam. Thanks.
Always good catching up with somebody as dialed in, plugged in as David Teel. There's a story we haven't gotten to yet today, and I found this fascinating. It's on ESPN.com. Major League Baseball fired a manager today. I'm sorry. An umpire today. Fired an umpire. Named, I think it's Eric Hoberg. I want to get the name correct here. Pat Hoberg. So they fired Pat Hoberg because he shared an online betting account, like FanDuel, MGM, DraftKings, any one of these. He shared an account with a friend of his. Okay. And the friend placed bets on baseball. Now, in reading the story, Fred Manfred, the commissioner of Major League Baseball, said that he was certain through their own investigation that Hoberg did not bet on baseball, but that his friend, who was a professional poker player, with whom he shared that account, did. Just the notion that you could be positive that an adult who happens to be a Major League Baseball umpire shared an online gambling account with a professional gambler. The notion that this umpire did not place bets on baseball is preposterous to me.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't have to actually physically place bets on baseball. I have questions as to why does an adult share an online gambling account?
Well, that was my first question. Why doesn't he just make his own?
Right. Or not have one.
Right.
So, but the notion that Major League Baseball's commissioner would say, oh, that umpire, he had nothing to do. He didn't even know that this other guy, who they shared an account, was betting on baseball. That is ludicrous.
So Ohtani's case just opened like the floodgates of
I brought
crazy.
that up last week, where Shohei Ohtani's former interpreter, and we didn't even get to the story a couple of weeks ago, where he was physically impersonating Shohei Ohtani to like make withdrawals from bank. Like the notion that he was not a gambling addict. The federal investigation into this guy, I don't remember his name, was that no, he's not addicted to gambling. There's no pattern of addictive gambling addiction behavior, which led me to one of two conclusions. The one is he's just a thief, which that's probably the correct answer, is that he's just a thief. The other one is that he's covering, which clearly Major League Baseball doesn't want. But this is very NFL burning the tapes of New England like spying on the Jets. This has all of the earmarks of Major League Baseball going, yeah, we can't pretend that an umpire was gambling on baseball. Mm-hmm. We can't do that. Can't have that. So we're going to say, nope, there's no connection, blah, blah, blah. I'm sorry. I ain't buying it. I'm not buying it. The news, man. Undefeated. Victoria, thank you very much. Canes tonight. It's an 8 o'clock start. Oh, man, the Jets are the best team in the NHL. Should be fun. See ya.